welcome to another episode of Some of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Jim.
And this week we are kicking off the Christmas season with a sort of jam-packed extravaganza of an episode. Everything that we're talking about today technically are not movies, they're like TV specials, but we're talking about four of them. So it really adds up to be a nice long movie.
We'll go through our picks and then tell our audience what we've decided to review this week. So you want to start and let them in on the secret?
Sure. So we each picked a couple of things. So these are kind of the classic TV Christmas specials that usually come on each year. I'll say the ones I picked and you can say the ones you picked.
Okay.
So I picked Year Without a Santa Claus from 1974, which is one of the classic like Rankin and Bass stop motion animated specials. And I also picked How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the original like 30-minute cartoon from 1966. And Jim, what about you?
So I picked again a Rankin and Bass and Rankin classic. I think it might have been their first one, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which came out in 1964. And yes, I remember watching it very vividly with my younger brother. And then I also picked out a Charlie Brown Christmas, which is one of my favorites. Again, it came out when I was little, so that's something that I watch along with Rudolph every year when it comes on TV. So I
Excellent.
don't miss those.
So, some classics. So, we'll kind of go through them each one by one. We're going to go chronologically. So, we'll start with Rudolph. Well, like you said, this is 1964. It is the first, I think, Bass and Rankin special that came out. They did several over the years. People have probably, I think these are some of the most like iconic, familiar like Christmas things because they came on TV, so they're kind of accessible. Although Rudolph hasn't been airing on network TV in a while, but it's coming back to NBC this year,
Oh, I didn't know
actually.
that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's airing sometime in like the first couple of weeks of December on NBC, which I think is
Okay.
where it originally aired in 1964.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be back, which is cool. This one, obviously, I was not alive when it first came out, but I do remember, like, again, sort of every year watching this as a kid, and like Rudolph and Yukon Cornelius and Hermie the Elf. I used to joke my stepdad has like blondish hair, and when I was a teenager, and sometimes like he would let his hair get a little long, and it would have this little swoop in the front, and I would call him Hermie the Elf. I'd be like, I want to be a dentist. But yeah, I think this is one that I remember seeing over and over and over like every year. So it's a classic. Although I think this is the first time in a while that I've watched it all the way through.
Oh, okay. Do you remember when you first saw it? I mean, I remember when because it came out the first year, but do you remember when you first saw it? Was it something that you chanced upon, or did someone said, "Oh, you
I'm
need to
sure that
watch
like my
this"?
parents or even like my grandparents turned it on because
Mm,
my parents, my mom was not alive. My dad was little when it first came on, so I think
mm-hmm,
it was probably something that he watched as a kid. And I'm sure my mom also, once she like got older, she
mm-hmm.
watched it. So I think probably something that like my parents or grandparents turned me on to, turned it on for me.
Is this a yearly tradition though for you to watch it?
I wouldn't say not Rudolph, but it was nice to watch it again.
Yeah.
I will say. Because like I said, it hasn't been on network TV in a little while, so I think it's also been a little bit less accessible. Um, but yeah, so I can't remember the last time I watched it all the way through until now.
Trying to remember the last time I know I know I watched it. I must have watched the DVD because I did buy the DVD years
Mm.
ago when it first came out
My
with a
family might have the
collection.
DVD also. They
So,
might have showed it to like my brother when he was little.
okay.
I'm not
Um,
sure, but I remember that loud whistling noise that his nose made. That really should have been the problem people had, not the color.
I
It's
know
that noise.
you would think that, yeah, I would think, well, yeah, the glowing thing wouldn't bother me so bad as it
It's
did,
like,
like, yeah, yeah, it was either like a warning beacon or a warning
right.
signal, or he had very bad sinuses or something going on. So um, I remember seeing this, and when it opened or when it first came on, and maybe the first couple years, the sponsor was Norelco
Mm,
and Norelco razors, and it was the electric razors. That's when electric razors were becoming a thing. And part of the commercial was the elves would ride the razors down the snow hills, like sleds, and that was,
mm,
like brought to you by Norelco, and
yeah.
whatever it was. But that was a vivid memory of that I had
Hmm.
about that, and the fact that it was back in my day, it was color. It was in color, and
Hmm.
then we were lucky we had a color TV. So,
Yeah. You'd
but
really miss out watching this not in color. You don't get the glow.
oh yeah, but that was 1964. I mean, people had color TVs, but they weren't common. Like
Yeah.
I mean, because I still remember the seeing it in black and white in our spare room. We had a smaller TV in our bedroom, but it was black and white. So, and one year we had to be, for some reason, I forget why, but I remember watching that in our bedroom because the grown-ups were watching. I think they were watching a football game or something,
Mm,
on the big TV.
of course, of course.
So, but
Well, for
anyway,
people who are not familiar, this special it follows the story of the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer by Johnny Marks. So, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose. I won't sing the whole thing, but hopefully you're familiar with the song.
that's okay.
But that's basically the storyline of the special. Um, so
Yeah,
it's
where they even
narrate.
plagiarized some of the song for some of the dialogue.
Yeah, some of it is truly he's just
Yeah,
saying Burl Ives is just saying lines from the
yeah,
song.
right.
Um, so Burl Ives plays this Sam the Snowman, who is the narrator of the piece. So we meet him. Basically, the story unfolds. Santa's lead reindeer, Donner, which, if you hear the full extended version of Rudolph, Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. So Donner, the Donner.
Not
He and
Richard
his
Donner.
no, not Jeffrey Dahmer, Donner.
Donner.
Um, he and his wife, Mrs. Donner, have a baby, Rudolph. But unfortunately, he comes out with a gross deformity, a glowing red nose, and truly everyone treats it like a gross deformity. He's fine.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, everything. As a matter of fact, he's kind of above average in every other category.
yeah,
Because he does these takeoffs that he flies around, a little bit later on, and he does better than anybody else. But because of his nose, he's an outcast.
right. Everyone's like prejudiced against
Mm,
non-black noses, I guess, on
I,
reindeer. So Donner's really worried about Rudolph's future. Like, God, there's no way he's gonna make Santa's sleigh team with this red nose. Which again, and I don't know if this was just like a choice to make it stand out more on TV, but every time it glows, it's like someone who's like a child who's bad at like playing an instrument.
mm-hmm.
Like when I learned to play saxophone and I like wasn't good at it yet and I would make a squeak, like that's what it sounds like.
I was
Um,
going to say it sounded like when I was trying to learn how to play clarinet, and
exactly.
it's like
You
trying
have
to hit that
you
note.
have a chipped reed and you
It-
start squeaking.
the-
Exactly that. That's what it
yep.
sounds like when the nose glows.
Mm-hmm.
So I that might have just been helping people who are visually impaired. I don't know. But that
Or,
was the annoying
or
part.
who didn't have a color TV.
That's true. That's honestly, it's probably that because you couldn't see like the red glowing. But everyone is acting like this is the worst thing ever. And so Donner's like, well, we got to cover it up.
Yeah, and I wrote, so the first he calls up dirt or something and like
Yeah, he like
smears it all over
covers
his
dirt. He
nose.
covers it with mud, but that obviously like
Yeah.
goes away quickly. And then eventually Well, we see this a little bit later, but eventually he puts like a cap on his nose, basically. But then Rudolph is talking like he has a stuffy nose all the time. And people are like, why you talk like that? It's like, he can't win.
Yeah. What's wrong with the way I talk? It's like,
Yes. The only part of this special that is not in the song, well, not the only part, but a subplot involves Hermie the elf, who, again, for people who are unfamiliar, don't know where you've been, or maybe you don't celebrate Christmas, so you don't watch these. That's fine. So there's a bunch of elves. First of all, what I thought was interesting, none of them have like hair
I was going to say the same thing.
except
Hermie's
for
the only
Hermie.
one that has, well,
The head elf has a goatee.
the only male elf that
Yeah.
has
Even that's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The only male elf that has hair. All the other ones just have a hat. They're just
right,
like bald.
but all the other lady elves have blonde hair.
Yeah. And Hermie has blonde hair. And the head elf
So
has the,
what does that tell you?
I don't know, the head elf has a goatee, a brown
Goatee,
goatee.
yeah. And one of them is tall, wears glasses.
Yeah.
One of the elves.
Yes, but still no hair. Hermie has a nice like swoop bang. Um,
Sort of looks like Superman's curl.
yeah.
A
Yeah.
little bit. Little bit.
And he's not into the toy making. He doesn't love his job, which like I watched that and I was like, relatable sometimes. Everyone's like, "What? You don't like making toys?" And he was like, "Not really. So this
Yeah.
is not really my thing." He did lose me when he said he wants to be a dentist. I was like, of all things, Hermie, the
Well,
dentist.
hey, whatever floats your boat.
I
But
guess I hate going to the dentist, so I have a bias.
I get you. But somebody has to do it, and
It's true.
I did think it was kind of progressive though for when you think about the time this came out in the mid '60s. That here's, oh, you're an elf, so you're supposed to make toys. It's almost like,
Hmm.
oh, you're this, so you're supposed to do that.
Hmm.
But Hermie's like, no, I don't have to do that.
Not what I want to do. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to be a dentist.
He does have an
So,
odd way of speaking. Well, they all kind of do. So,
yeah.
but hey, I guess I never heard elves talk. So, except in Lord of the Rings, and they didn't talk and look like that.
Yeah, they're a little bit different. All well in You're Not a Santa Claus, they talk, and then it's also
That's
interesting too because it's very clearly like the movie Elf. These are the outfits.
yeah. This is the
This is like
uniform.
where they got the elf uniform from.
Yeah, I never thought about, yeah, because it's copied to the even to the
It's like
hat.
the hat and like the band on the.
Yeah,
It's very
and
this.
the shoes and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Meanwhile, this is when Rudolph is older and he is going to the reindeer games. This is sort of the NFL combine for Santa's sleigh,
Because
right?
we have who's the coach is
It is
I wrote
Comet.
Comet
Comet.
is the coach. Um,
Yes. Also, I love that the reindeer games kind of open with the elves are practicing singing also, and Hermie did not show up because he was practicing dentistry on the
mhm.
dolls. They
um,
are singing, "We are Santa's elves."
by the way, the songs are catchy in this. Well, at least they are to
Yes.
me. I remember all the songs very clearly from this. But oh yeah, because they had elf practice.
Yes. And he did
He
not want to go.
did not show up for elf practice.
Um, but yeah, so Rudolph goes to the reindeer games. This is when his dad has made him put a cover on his nose. Rudolph doesn't want to, but his dad's like, "You're gonna do it."
Hmm.
Donner's kind of a hard ass.
Yeah,
He's not a
he's not a
he's not
nice
gentle
guy.
parenting.
No.
Um, so Comet is the reindeer coach. I heard that he has a really obnoxious voice. He's like, "Hey everybody, we're gonna practice flying today."
I like that he had a whistle and
Yes.
a ball cap. You know, so
Yes. It was funny. He's like I said, it's the NFL Combine here.
pretty much.
It's the
So
North Pole Combine. But Rudolph, he meets a friend named Fireball, who, first of all, if we're gonna make fun of Rudolph's nose, let's talk about this little tuft of orange hair on top of Fireball's
hmm
head. It looks so silly. You look
and
ridiculous, Fireball. How dare you laugh at Rudolph?
nobody else has it.
Right.
right. So it's
So make
like,
fun of him.
I know that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, wait a minute, Fireball has this thing, and y'all call him Fireball. Wouldn't that be a better name for Rudolph? Fireball? You know,
Wouldn't it?
I'm just, just saying.
Wouldn't it? But anyways, Rudolph also meets someone else, a girl named Clarice. And you can tell she's a girl because she has ginormous eyelashes. In case you were wondering if she's a girl. Um, she says Rudolph is cute, and he's like, "Oh, she thinks I'm cute." And he starts flying. He's so excited.
Well, happened to me the first time a girl told me I was cute.
You just took flight.
Just took flight, just took off. Yep, yep.
Oh my God, I'm floating. Um, but then comments like, oh my God, you win. Like you're amazing. Look at Rudolph.
Yeah,
Because all the other guys are trying to fly and they're struggling. But Rudolph is just like whoop in the air.
yeah. Makes a circle around the field and stuff, and
Hmm.
then comes in for a landing.
Yes. I wish I could do his voice. He's like, she thinks I'm
You
cute. She
cute.
thinks I'm cute. Because again, he's got
You
his
need to
nose
put a
is like
cap on there.
plugged.
Yeah, you need
She
to.
thinks I'm cute.
That's better.
Uh, but in all the excitement, he does a little too much moving around and his nose cover comes off.
Mm. And
And everyone is like, ah, what? Again, it's like it's the craziest thing they've ever seen. And then they start making fun of him. As in the song, all of the other reindeers used to laugh and call him names. And then they tell him no more
you
reindeer games.
you cannot play in the reindeer again.
They never let
I
poor
do like
Rudolph join
I
in
do
any
like the
reindeer
way they do
games.
the eyes when they look at his nose, and their eyes get like all uh,
Yeah.
real narrow and stuff, or real big, and it's like,
Yeah. They were all just like terrified. Um, and Santa is like, Donner, how could you let your child like come do this? I wrote, Santa has created a toxic culture.
well, I wrote down that Santa also runs a sweatshop because he's got these elves like busting their butts, making these toys, and it's like,
Let's talk about how Santa is the problem here. I also wrote, who cares about his nose? If the goal is for the reindeers to fly to pull your sleigh, and he has
right.
demonstrated an ability to fly,
Yeah.
what is the
If
problem?
if he only had one eye, maybe
Right.
and depth perception was an issue, different story. But it's his nose. It's not like,
Exactly. His
yeah.
nose isn't any different than the other one's stupid hair.
hmm it hasn't inhibited his ability to perform his duties as a reindeer.
Exactly. Which also he's clearly already performing at a higher level than everyone else in
Exactly.
his
That's what I was
family.
saying. Yeah. So
So
come on
like
now. Yeah. He's
thankfully one reindeer is not ridiculous and it's Clarice. She doesn't mind. She likes that he's different.
mhm.
Um she sings a song about believing in his dreams and but then her dad doesn't want her around.
It's like, I
It's
know
like, oh
poor
my
Rudolph,
God.
just like his dad
Everyone is
doesn't
like
like him.
racist against Rudolph.
I know. It's like we're the with the red-nosed haters league.
Mhm. So Rudolph like runs away. He's obviously an outcast in his community. So what's the point of him staying there? Even his own dad doesn't like him.
Yeah, it's like he's been shunned. So,
Yes. So he takes off and he runs into Hermie,
ta-da.
a similar outcast. Because Hermie is like, I know I'm an elf, but that's not what I want to do. I just want to be a dentist. So they're like, okay, well, you know what? Why don't we just go off together and we can be who we want to be? We're a couple of
I
misfits.
was getting ready to say, and then here's the "I Wish" song.
Yes.
We're not a couple of nitwits. So I also like
Yes.
Hermie asked him. He said, "Oh, is this your snowbank?" It's like, of all the snowbanks, did I pick yours to
Of all
hide
the
in?
snowbanks in all the world,
Yeah,
you
we.
sit on mine. So they're walking around. They're just sort of wandering. It doesn't appear they have a destination. Even though we have been warned at the beginning of this that you have to watch out for the abominable snowman, who is big and scary. And so they're trying to avoid him, and so far they do, but they do run into someone new, A gentleman named Yukon Cornelius, who is he's hunting for gold, or maybe silver, or maybe tinsel. He adjusts his expectations.
Pretty easy going, yeah. So
Yeah. Um, so he's like, this is my land. It has a lot of gold. No. Um, Unfortunately, one issue with Rudolph's nose is that it does make them easy to spot. So the abominable snowman does show up, and the nose kind of gives him away.
and he is big and scary.
He is big and scary. Yes, he
Yeah.
has big sharp teeth, big
And
like furry guy.
and he's big. He's like
Yes.
big.
He's like 4 times their height.
Yeah. So but Yukon knows all about
Yes. So that
Bumble. He calls him
yes, he
the
calls him
Bumble.
Bumble because he cannot say abominable. He's like the Bumble snowman. Um, so they take off, they get to the water, the edge of the water, and they're like, oh no. Yukon's like, I got this. He basically cuts off the chunk of ice they're on, so they're on an ice floe because he knows that the Bumble will not come into the water.
He
So,
sinks.
yes.
He
So
said,
they're floating away.
I said, you know about Bumbles? Bumbles sink.
Yes.
Which
I mean, he's
implies
very
there's more
big.
than one. There's more than one because he says Bumbles. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there like more than one Bumble? So
Perhaps he's defeated another in his travels.
possibly.
Um,
Well, he's made it this far.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Back at home, Donner, Rudolph's dad, finally feels bad. And he's like, well, I guess I should go look for our son. This is another moment where I was like, I don't like him. His wife, Rudolph's mom, is like, oh, I'm going to come. And he's like, no, this is man's work. What? Looking for your son? Just eyes? Using eyes? Only men can do that? If I was his wife, I would have been like, listen, our son would not have run away if it was not for you.
right.
So I'm coming.
Dumbass. Again, remember though the era which this.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, I'm just saying. Women's the women's movement hadn't really quite
Women's
taken
place is
off.
in the cave that they live in.
Exactly. So just saying. So
They do
yeah,
literally like live in a cave though.
yeah. So
Um,
it
which I don't
seems
know
like
if,
a nice cave.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if that's a thing reindeers do if they live
I
in
thought
caves, but
I would have thought. I thought Santa kept the reindeer in stalls.
I thought so too. We're getting a lot of really mixed messages about how Santa keeps his reindeer, but
Because we don't see like hay and straw and
right.
how they're fed. I thought Santa took care of all the reindeer,
I thought so too. But
but he
apparently
does run a
he
sweatshop.
just encourages them to engage in discrimination amongst each
Right.
other. He
Yeah.
sows division among the reindeers to keep them in a subordinate status to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Sounds
they
like
could
it.
all fly away if they wanted to.
Exactly. And then where would Santa be?
On his ass at the North Pole.
Right. He might
Um,
get one present delivered.
right? So back with Rudolph and Co. Rudolph, Hermie, and Cornelius, they float on their ice floe and they end up at an island. And it is the island of misfit toys. There's a Jack in the Box named Charlie. That's his issue because he's not named Jack. He's named Charlie. He's sort of the sentry of the island of misfit toys, and then all the other ones emerge and they sing about being misfit toys.
I like Charlie though. I like Charlie's voice. And Charlie seems like kind of like,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, well, that's okay. No, wait a minute. You can't come here. It's like, no.
Yeah. Also, this part is where it gets a little weird to me. So the island of misfit toys is ruled by King Moonracer, who's a lion with wings.
Wings.
So he's like sort of not quite like a griffin, but like
I know.
some.
I was thinking, is he supposed to be a griffin? He has a crown too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's a king. So
Good point.
so they can't stay on the island unless he gives them permission. And they're like, he says only toys can stay. Living things
Yeah,
can't.
they're not here by choice. Or they're
Yeah.
here, but yeah, they can make their way in the world.
Yes. Like living things can't hide here.
Right.
But maybe you can help the toys. Like go put in a good word to Santa. He can come and give them to boys and girls, kids around the world, because they'll still love them. Because toys aren't happy until they're loved by a child.
Which I really like that message. I remember that as a kid, and
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, like
That
favorite
makes me think of
toys.
Toy Story.
Yeah,
That's kind of the
exactly.
whole message of Toy Story.
Hmm.
All the Toy
Yeah.
Story movies. So, he does say they can spend the night though. So he's not kicking them out right away. So they all decide they're gonna have to like go off and go back to the North Pole. But Rudolph decides he needs to go by himself because he knows that his nose does attract the abominable snowman, the Bumble, and he doesn't want to be a liability, essentially.
Was I the only one that thought that maybe like King Moonracer could have done a little bit better with the accommodations, other because it like they were all crammed together in one bed in this little
Yeah, in
tiny
one
place.
little hole.
Yeah, and then when Rudolph does leave, it's like one, how does he not wake them up? And two, Rudolph left the door open when he left. It's like you don't.
Rude.
Well, don't you think it'd been cold?
Yeah.
Like just
It was rather chilly there.
they
Were
are
you
at the
born in a
North Pole,
cave, Rudolph? Gosh.
evidently.
So he's off on his little ice floe.
Hmm.
And he's wandering a bit, but then he goes home. People are still making fun of him. It's been however long, and they're still making fun of him. But his parents are gone looking for him, and Clarice is gone too.
But and also Rudolph is grown up.
Yeah.
He's got antlers.
Yes. Yes. So he's been wandering for a minute. Um,
I guess he must have bummed some meals somewhere or
he
something
must
because
have.
yeah.
But yeah, and
So
it's like he gets back and immediately these people are making fun of him again. Like, I'm sorry, grow up.
I know it's like
Jeez. You don't
nobody
have
went.
anything better to talk about?
They didn't say like, "Oh, where you been? We thought you were dead," or
Right.
"Oh God, I'm glad you're safe." And it's
They're
no,
just
it's like, "Oh,
ready to make fun again.
yeah, you're back.
Rude.
I
Rude.
thought you left."
So, also this is a problem though, because it's December 22nd.
Getting
And
close to Christmas.
famously Christmas is December 25th. So we're getting close and like the weather's getting bad. Like things are looking iffy.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, because
so
Donner's gone,
yeah, Donner's the lead
the head
reindeer
honcho, right?
of Santa's squad. So like what's Santa gonna do? Also, it's like he's like, how am I gonna see? Like the storm is bad. Um, so Rudolph is like, okay, let me go back and find my family. So he does find them, mom, dad, Clarice,
Well, he knows
but
where to go look, which they said, oh, and he knows exactly where to find them. It's like he goes to the Bumble's cave.
yeah. And then they all end up now Rudolph's also captured.
Yeah. So it's like, dude, what do you think you were going to do against the Bumble?
Right. Thankfully, also somehow Hermie and Yukon knew exactly where they were. And they're like, okay, we're gonna save them. And I did write a note here about Yukon calling it the Bumble. Um so basically what they do, Yukon they lure him out of his cave, and Yukon drops a big rock on his head to knock him out. And then Hermie pulls out all of his teeth, which I was like, this is a
I
little
said,
dark.
I said, this is horribly mistreating the poor Bumble.
This is like serial killer
First,
stuff.
I know it's like first you knock him unconscious and then you yank all of his teeth out. So one, he's going to have a concussion or a traumatic brain injury. Yeah, that's by the way for those of you who can't see it, Lindsay's doing a really good job of pretending to have no teeth. And poor Bumble now has no teeth, and how's he supposed to eat?
Right. He's obviously a carnivore. We can't chew his food
It's
anymore.
not like yeah, it's
Just
not like
knock him out and run away.
run away, but no, they
Half the characters there can fly. Also, then like Yukon and the Bumble seem to like fall off a cliff.
well, yeah, the Bumble comes too, and he's like,
Yeah.
and then that's when Yukon, oh, or Hermes says, oh, just walk past him because now he doesn't have any teeth. He still has them big claws,
Right. He's
and
also
he's still
still
like,
big.
he's still big. I mean, he could just like, maybe mush him into a pulp and then like strain his food.
Right. Right.
But no, he's defenseless now.
Yeah.
So
Except not really.
I kind of felt bad for Bumble.
Yeah, same. Well, the rest of them go back to the North Pole. Hermie and the reindeer.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden now everybody's okay with quote unquote misfits. Now they're like, oh, you know what? Maybe you're not horrible and disgusting. Maybe we can tolerate you.
Yeah.
And Hermie can set up a dentist's office at the North Pole. Because we elves are really struggling with our dental hygiene here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then Yukon rolls in with the Bumble, just like dragging him. And he's like, hey, guess what? He's nice now and he wants a job, which apparently is just reaching high things. He puts the star on the top of their very tall tree.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, he's and and everybody thought they were dead.
Yeah. And they're like,
And,
oh my God, you're alive.
and my favorite line in Cornelius goes, "Oh, didn't I tell you about bumbles? Bumbles bounce."
They sink and they bounce.
And they sink and they bounce. So
Interesting.
I know. So hey, I guess it's one of life's mysteries.
Yes. So, and now it's Christmas Eve. As the song says, then one foggy Christmas Eve.
And it's foggy, brothers
It's foggy, it's windy, it's
and
foggy,
sisters.
visibility is low. And Santa's
It's
like,
it's negative.
we're gonna have to call off Christmas. Like it's not
Yeah.
happening. And he announces it, and then he's like, hold on a minute. I know someone with a bright beacon for a nose. Rudolph might be useful after all. He might
So
not
I
be
will
a
use him to
gross
my advantage.
outcast. Yes. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?
By the way, that's how Santa says it in this show.
Yes. And then I think you and I talked about this. Donner, Rudolph's dad, is like, oh, I knew all along he was going
Oh,
to be great. No,
great.
Donner, you don't get
Yeah,
to take credit for this. You were horrible to your son. You tried to cover up his difference. No,
right.
he is
I said,
succeeding despite you.
I put Donner is full of shit.
That's what exactly that. That's a much more succinct way to put it.
I'm sorry,
But
I was kind of blunt. So
yes. Rudolph is I wrote Donner is acting like he knew this all along. Wow.
typical
Um,
male
exactly.
jerk,
So,
asshole.
but Rudolph's gonna guide the sleigh. Santa also, throughout the movie, he's very skinny, and Mrs. Claus is like, Papa, you got to eat some food. You got to fatten up. All of a sudden, as it's like time to go, he has fattened up.
I
He
said
has, like, he's much more round.
in a few hours he gained like 80 pounds.
Yes.
So
But yeah, so they're ready to go. They do, to Santa's credit, they do stop first at the island of Misfit Toys to go get the Misfit Toys. I also, I love their toy distribution technique.
mhm.
Santa does not, in the Rudolph universe, Santa does not land on your house and come down your chimney.
Nope.
The elf on the back of his sleigh hands each toy an umbrella and they float down to you Mary Poppins style.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and
Christmas
that's
lore.
yes. What's the we've talked about witch rules, we talked about vampire rules. What are the Santa rules? We're gonna get some different versions of this.
Exactly. We're gonna,
So,
yeah.
you're obviously what you choose to believe about Santa is for you. But I thought that was interesting. I
I
forgot
did
about
too.
that
Yeah,
detail.
yeah, I
Because
did
I was
too.
like, this makes so many like 'twas the night before Christmas doesn't happen now up on the housetop. That's not a
Click, click, click.
yeah. So like these are moot in this
Mhm.
universe. Maybe they got a late start though, so they didn't have time to land on every house.
Possible,
I don't
or
know.
maybe the weather was so bad he didn't want to risk
Yeah.
crash landing into
Although
a.
it does seem wild if it's like windy and bad. It's like, here's an umbrella toy. Good luck.
Really, yeah, we're all counting on you.
You'll land where you'll land.
Sort of like the distribution of the 101st Airborne on D-Day. It's like
Right.
you'll make it back, fellas.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. So the lesson of Rudolph is people will be mean to you until you're useful, and then they'll be nice to you.
And then maybe, just maybe, they'll accept you and allow you to participate in their world.
Yeah,
So
basically.
yeah,
Which is like Oh, but we'll say it's the time of it's acceptance. Clarice accepted him from jump.
from
So
jump.
be
Yeah,
like
because
Clarice. Don't be like Santa. Don't be like Donner. Don't be like the other reindeer.
well, in Yukon accepted him
Yes,
because you
Yukon,
and
Hermie,
Hermie
Clarice. Be like them. Be
because
like
they
the
were
misfit toys. Because we're all a bunch of misfits in one way or another.
exactly, exactly.
Yay for the misfits. The rest of them, boo. I think his
Agreed.
mom, Rudolph's mom, was probably fine, but it
Rudolph's
seemed
mom
like
was yeah,
Donner was calling the shots
but
in their
I was gonna
home.
say, but yeah, in that time period in that world,
Hmm.
Clarice or not Rudolph's mom was not Rudolph's mom didn't even have a name.
Yeah, she was just Mrs. Donner
Mrs. Donner.
of
Yeah.
Donner.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Whatever.
But the positive view of the messages, the things that make you different are also what make you special, and they're your
Exactly.
superpower.
They are. So
Yeah, everyone was mean to Rudolph, but oh, how the turntables.
hmm 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 so
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 yeah,
again, one of my favorites, not because of the I guess the underlying message, not that
yeah,
that like you said, like sometimes it's our uniqueness that makes us special.
yes, exactly. I was also always a fan of the song when I was a kid, but with like the ad libs. Did you ever sing it like that? Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, reindeer had a very shiny nose like Pinocchio. They never let
No,
poor
I
Rudolph,
no,
Rudolph join in any or no, I'm skipping. Have a very shiny nose. And if
and
you
if you
ever
ever saw it,
saw it, you would even say it glows like a light bulb. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games like Monopoly.
no, I never see. No, that's the first I've ever
That
heard
was like
that.
how all the kids
I
sang it when
was
I was a
today
kid.
years old when I learned that.
There you
So
go.
there
Then
you
one
go.
foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Ho, 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 Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him, as he shouted out with glee, Yippee!
Uh,
Rudolph the
it,
red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history. That was the
I
the
I'm
version
like
that we
I'm
sang.
no, I've never heard that. Honest to goodness. So
I'm forgetting some of it, obviously,
I
but
don't know. It does have one of my favorite holiday songs towards the end, which Burl Ives sings,
mhm.
"Holly Jolly Christmas."
Yes.
That's a to me that's a standard. I got to hear that every year. So, and then for those of y'all who don't know who Burl Ives was an actor, a musician, and usually played bad guys in the movies, but had a really nice voice and a nice singing voice. He was also a very big, large person. So, but he was in a Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, uh, played Big Daddy,
Mm.
and I was trying to think. He was in a couple of movies where but usually he played a bad guy, which is but he sang like country music on
Hmm.
recorded country music. Um, I always liked him as an actor and as a singer. So,
They made the snowman look like him. I didn't realize.
hmm
I never knew what he looked
yeah,
like, but like the mustache and the little
mustache and stuff.
goatee.
Yeah, yeah. And he played instruments. He played the banjo. He could play the banjo, and I think he played the guitar. So,
Nice.
and then
Nice.
nowadays we see even today it's like they have the toys and the the uh,
Hmm.
of all the characters and so on and so forth.
And there are still commercials with them. I don't,
Oh
not for
yeah,
Norelco necessarily, but like I don't
no,
remember what they're for, but I see there are still commercials with
hmm
this
you
stop
know,
motion and everything.
my dream is to still own a 15-foot inflatable, abominable snowman, and I mean not like this one, Bumble.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course. Of
yeah,
course. That
yeah.
would be great.
Trying
That
to
would be
convince
great.
my wife to let me get one for the holidays.
Yeah.
Because who
It's
doesn't want a 15-foot Bumble in their house in their front yard?
who
So
doesn't? It would
I know,
be kind of iconic.
I know.
I will say too, there's someone near mine in my neighborhood who has a giant inflatable dragon in their yard, and it is always a good landmark. I'm like, okay, I'm almost home.
Or if you're given
2 streets, I got to
directions,
make a right.
if you're given directions, look for the big dragon, and
You're going to
then
pass the dragon. It's not the street after that, but the one
it's
after
the
that.
one after that. So yeah,
That
mine
is
would
how
be.
I like always, I'm like, okay,
I could do
always
mine.
remind
It's like,
myself.
oh, my house is the one with the big abominable snowman, the Bumble in
You
the
know the
front yard.
Bumble?
The Bumble, yeah, and it looks like the Bumble. So, but anyway,
Yes.
so that's Rudolph.
That's Rudolph. So the next one is from 1965, Charlie Brown Christmas. So this was also your pick, Jim. Tell us about, do you remember watching this one?
Oh yeah, very much so. So, and I can't remember if this one came out first or if it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. Might have been this one, I think, that came
I'm
out
not sure.
first.
Yeah.
But in 1965, I was, I was 8 years old. So I remember this very well. And then to me, again, to the biggest things with this is the music,
Mm-hmm.
especially the opening theme. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the Christmas time,
Do, do,
yeah,
do, do, do.
and
Yeah, I've
and
seen a lot of people are playing, like they have like the vinyl of this, the Vince Guaraldi Charlie Brown Christmas music, and like that's what they play.
okay.
Like my cousin was posting about it, and
Oh, really?
other people too. Yeah, this is like my stepdad loves to play this too. Like I think this is a soundtrack for Christmas for a lot of people. It's very good, like if you're just like hanging out, like
Hmm.
doing stuff for like your background.
Right.
Yeah.
Even when they're doing the Christmas play, do 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 do
Do,
do do
do,
do do
do,
do.
do, do. Yeah, that's like the
It's kind of
classic.
jazzy,
Do,
kind
do,
of.
do, 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 do,
Uh,
do. And they're
and
doing like the dancing.
uh-huh. And they're like they look like zombies dancing almost. So
Yeah.
sort of kind of bopping. The
Um,
animation is not the greatest in these, but
but it's like iconic.
it very much. And I kept writing that word is iconic. The music's iconic. The skating scene, where they
Hmm.
show the kids all skating. That's
And
so
Charlie
yeah.
Brown
So
is not great at it.
no, and then before we start, so a little tidbit that Lindsay and I found out about each other this evening when we were discussing this is Lindsay and I were both in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
Hmm. Hmm.
Lindsay, you played,
I played Patty.
and I played Snoopy, and it was a high school play, so my
Yes.
senior year.
Yes, you're a good man, Charlie Brown.
And then for those of you who don't know it, so it it came out in the '60s, I think, didn't it? You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, the play,
Probably.
like
It's been out a
'69 or
while.
'70, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but so based on the comic strip, I read the comic strip as a kid,
Hmm.
so in the
Hmm. Yeah.
newspapers.
For people who
So,
don't know, Charles Schultz, I think it was his birthday the other day.
oh, was it?
I believe so. Yeah, his birthday was November 26th.
Okay, so
So we are recording this on November 29th. So his birthday was just earlier this week.
mm,
Um,
and he sort of based Charlie Brown on himself, from what
well,
I
that
understand.
really says something. We know a lot about him then. What a downer.
He sort of looks like Charlie Brown, so
A big round head.
sort of, kind of, with kind of,
One,
yeah. Um,
the zigzaggy hair.
yeah.
Um,
Um, and
but yeah, I mean, I think that peanuts are kind of like if you think of like a comic strip, you think of
right,
peanuts.
Peanuts, yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's this one I think this is another one that like I've obviously seen. It's not necessarily like a tradition, but like it's still, I think, again, like looms large culturally. Like when I was in college, my roommates and I got a tree, and we bought the Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
Okay,
That was the
so
tree that we had in our room, in our dorm,
hmm
around Christmas. So it was, it was a fake one version of this, but it, had the one red bauble
one
on
red,
it, and
and it
like,
like bent over, and
yeah.
it was and had the two wooden things on the
Mm-hmm.
base. Yeah,
Yep.
so
That was the tree we had.
I mean, who doesn't? If somebody says, "Oh, it's a Charlie Brown Christmas tree," who doesn't know what that looks like?
Right.
Or that it's a poor looking, dilapidated tree.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but yeah, so I remember this one again, and again, this one's a yearly tradition with me. So this one,
Hmm.
and along with it's a great pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So
Hmm.
I know that sounds, I don't know, odd for a 67-year-old man to sit there and admit he still watches cartoons, but I do. I enjoy these. So
I think lots of people, it's Charlie Brown. Like it's not,
yeah,
like I said,
uh,
it's kind of, it's a pretty like iconic thing. Like they just had, I was watching The Masked Singer yesterday, and it was Peanuts night. So they had like a Peanuts
really,
themed night, and they had all the big like the characters there,
oh,
and they danced
cool.
to like the do 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 that the song
I lo-
do 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 do. So it's like it still has like cultural resonance. So I think that like I think you're solid on it.
well, and Snoopy's just is
Right.
everywhere, and then plus for those of you who may or may not know, Snoopy is also the official mascot of NASA.
Hmm.
And that's where
Yeah.
he they have an award that they give out to people who make great contributions to the space program, and it's called the Snoopy Award.
Hmm. I didn't know that. And
So
I mean, they've always had, and maybe I don't know if they still have it anymore. I don't remember in the parade, but like there's still been a Snoopy balloon in the Macy's
I
Thanksgiving Day parade, like
yeah,
my whole life.
and I think
So
there's a
like,
Charlie Brown balloon too, if I'm not mistaken.
hmm.
But I know for a fact Snoopy,
Yeah.
I think,
And
has
at some
been.
point there was a Woodstock balloon too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and
So
Woodstock
like
became
it's
a favorite of the
yeah.
public. So
Listen, Apple would not have shelled out money to buy all the Charlie Brown properties if it wasn't still relevant. So
exactly.
you can watch this on Apple TV Plus.
Yes. So
That's where I watched it.
exactly. So
Um, Also, the good thing is, I will say for people who haven't seen these, they're pretty short. So if you want to like show your kids, like
yeah, these are like 25
Rudolph
minutes
is less
long.
than it's like 50 minutes. Charlie Brown Christmas is like 25-30. The Grinch is like 25-30, and then You're Without a Santa Claus is also like 50. So none of
50.
these are
No,
more than an hour or a half
right.
hour. So
And if you rent them, I mean, they were an hour on TV, but I was going to say, but if you watch them on demand or whatever, whatever it is, there's no commercials in them. So
yeah.
they
So they'd
ran,
be even shorter.
they're shorter. Yeah. So, cause
Mhm.
there's, um, and then Little Debbie used to be the sponsor for the Charlie Brown things.
Nice. Yes,
Yeah.
I
So,
was reading this originally aired on CBS, I think,
hmm,
in 1965, so December 1965. Yes.
yep. I remember that.
On CBS television network. So this opens, also if you're familiar with Peanuts, you kind of get the vibe. You know Charlie Brown's vibe. He's a bit of a downer for a child especially. Um so
Charlie has
like
issues.
it's Christmas time. He's feeling down, even though he's supposed to be in the spirit. Even Linus is like, "Oh wow, you're like,
Yeah.
you're a downer." Okay. Um, Again, I noted the excellent music. So it's Vince Guaraldi, um, doing all this music. It's just great. Lovely like piano music, catchy tunes, just
Hmm.
lovely to hear. And again, I think they're just like, it's just a good vibe. Like again, even if you're like spending time with people and talking, this is good music to have on like in the background.
It is. Yeah.
Set a good vibe, like hang out.
Well, because it's all instrumental. There's no,
Yeah. And
yeah.
even when there's the song, like the singing, like Christmas time is
Oh, yeah.
here, it's
It's
like
real
very
low. Yeah.
low
I'm
and
sorry.
kind of subtle. But yeah, everyone is ice skating. Everyone's like a professional skater, except for Charlie Brown, who is struggling. And I think his issue with the season is that if you feel like people don't like you, it's only emphasized here. He goes to
yeah.
his mailbox, there's no Christmas cards. So it's like if you already feel kind of alone,
Hmm.
it's drawn more starkly at this time of year,
Oh, yeah.
which is real. That's
Yeah.
real
If you,
talk.
hmm,
I hope that people who are like 8 years old don't feel like that, but
I would
um,
hope not. But
Charlie Brown does.
it kind of, yeah, it kind of makes you feel, like, again, when you think back to when this came out and stuff, 1965, and then Charlie Brown was talking about feeling down and stuff. It's like, boy, that's kind of heady stuff to think about back then, 60 years
Hmm.
ago, that
Yeah.
here's an 8-year-old kid, or whatever that, is like not happy and overjoyed at Christmas time.
Hmm. That has to be like a contrast because I feel like when I think of like that time, I think of like, I don't know, like Leave It to Beaver.
Oh
right? And
yeah,
like everything is
yeah.
perfect and we're all happy.
Or
Do-do-do-do-do.
my three sons and stuff like that. It was like, is those kind of shows where, Christmas was everybody was waiting, to see what toys they'd get and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Yeah. Um, Also, Charlie Brown is a little bit like bitchy about it when he goes up to Violet and he's like, "Wow, thanks for the Christmas card, Violet." And she's like, "I didn't send you a Christmas card." And he's like, "Wow, you don't understand sarcasm, Violet." It's like, "Oh my God. Maybe
little
this is why
passive
people aren't
aggressive.
sending you cards, Charlie Brown." Jeez.
Yeah.
I love Linus. He's always, if you don't know Peanuts, Linus is the one that's always got the blanket. And his older sister Lucy is like, "Why are you always dragging that blanket around? You can't keep this blanket with you all the time." And he said, "When I get older, I'll make it into a sport coat."
And Linus is a whiz at using the blanket for a myriad of things. So
Yes, as we see when it's time for the Christmas play. But
yes.
first, Charlie Brown decides to get some psychiatric help
Hmm.
from Lucy, who
Well,
has,
she's a
again,
professional.
she's a professional. If you're familiar, you have seen her booth, psychiatric help, 5 cents. She was away, but then someone, they're like, "Girl, you got a customer." So she comes back. She's trying to make
She
her coin.
she has a flip side. The doctor
Yes.
is
The
in.
doctor is in or out, so she flips it around to in.
Yeah.
And so he says he's depressed, and she's like, "Well, if you're depressed, you must be scared of something." And she runs through an impressive list of phobias.
Which
Do
I'm
you
sure
have
none of them are real.
this phobia, that phobia? He's like, what?"
But then she finally hits on
Yes.
pantophobia.
Yes. Fear
The
of
every
everything.
That's it. That it's a revelation. He says that's
Yes.
it. So I now realize I have pantophobia. So
It could be real because pan is like the Greek root for like everything, right? Like pandemic. Pantophobia refers to a widespread fear of everything.
it does.
It's panophobia or pantophobia.
Pantophobia, yeah.
So
Either or, yeah.
she was on it. Lucy was
She was
on it.
on there, yeah. But she had some other ones that were just like
It's
whatever.
like, "Are you afraid of cats?" He was like, "I don't think so."
Afraid of waves or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like
She was
anyway.
running through quite a variety, but
Yep.
he gets to the point. He's like, "Listen, I'm bummed about Christmas." And she says, she actually gives, this is kind of decent advice, I think. She's like, "Get involved with something.
Yeah.
You got to do something." So
Hmm.
she's like, does she have pure motives in saying this? No, but she's not wrong.
No.
She's like, we're doing a Christmas play and you can direct it," which really seems to perhaps be a bit self-serving for her because she's like, "Well, we need someone to do this and I can tell you what to do. So you can come be the
Right.
director."
I'm gonna be right there beside of you. So
Um, Also, Lucy's like, "You know what? Christmas bums me out too because all I get are toys, and that's not what I want." And Charlie Brown's like, "What do you want?" "Real estate."
it it's the perfect gift, right?
All these children are like 50 years old in like little elementary school bodies.
I know.
Um,
Yeah, I know. I love that. I even wrote that down. So, what does Lucy always want but never gets? Real estate.
mhm. Meanwhile, Charlie Brown is encountering, like, everybody else is into Christmas.
Oh
Snoopy,
yeah,
his dog, is entering a Christmas lights and decorations contest. He's decorating his doghouse. Again, the classic red doghouse. His little sister Sally is like, "Charlie, I'm gonna dictate a letter to Santa. I need you to write it down."
right.
Which is, I love this part. She's like, "Hey Santa, how are you doing? How's the North Pole? Is your wife doing well? Anyways, there's a lot of stuff I want. I will give you specifics on sizes and da da da. And if you can't find any of this stuff, I will take cash, preferably tens and twenties."
And Charlie gives his rhetorical answer. Good grief.
Yes, good grief. And he does a lot of good griefs and "oh brother."
Oh, yes.
I'm trying to work "oh brother" back into my thing because it does feel appropriate at times when someone's just saying something that they're just being ridiculous and you're just like,
Oh yeah. Oh,
"Oh
brother.
brother." A hard
Really?
eye roll with "oh brother,"
Yes.
like, it really conveys a lot. Anyways, it's time for rehearsal for the Christmas play.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Charlie Brown is the director, so he has to show up. They're all playing music and dancing in the classic Peanuts fashion to the classic Peanuts music.
It's got a good. It is a catchy tune.
Yes. Shout out to Schroeder.
Yep. Yep.
Do you know something, Schroeder? I think the way you play the piano is nice. That's from Your Good Man, Charlie Brown.
Yep. For those of
Um,
you who didn't know.
if you're not familiar. So Charlie Brown calls them all to order. He hands them their scripts. He's, assigning them parts. Uh, Lucy's she's operating as like the assistant director, kind of. She's telling Linus he has to memorize all of his lines like right away. And she's threatening violence.
Yeah.
And she also wants him to get rid of the blanket. But as Jim alluded to, Linus is very creative with the blanket because he's going to be a shepherd. And bloop, now the blanket is like a shepherd headdress.
Yeah.
So, how about that,
And
Lucy?
a perfect one at that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
My man can fold and
Mm-hmm.
go ahead, Linus.
You wouldn't hit a poor defenseless shepherd, would you?
Of course. um, then there's like Charlie Brown's trying to get this rolling, and there's just lots of issues. Like the Schroeder's playing that classic Peanuts music, which obviously does not go. They appear to be doing like the story of the first Christmas. That's not the vibe. So the
Right.
music is wrong. Pigpen is all dusty,
As
getting it on,
usual.
getting it on. I forget the girl's name with the
It's
curly hair, the red-haired girl,
Violet.
Violet. It's Violet, yeah,
Violet with the naturally curly
with the
hair.
naturally curly hair, which was important to her,
Right.
obviously to her role. But Pigpen's dust is messing up her curls, which as a curly-haired person, we don't want our curls messed with. I don't know that dust would disturb my
I was
curls, but
so I
it's
did
more of a
like.
moisture issue.
Oh, gotcha.
But dust wouldn't, they would just be dirty. It'd still be curly though. But I don't know. Pigpen does seem to have some volume of dust, so who
Well, he
knows?
is Pigpen.
He is
So
Pigpen. So
I did like Charlie's rationale though about don't think of it as dust. Think of it as the dust of the ages. You know that
yes,
Nebuchadnezzar may have trod on this dust, and
exactly. He's like,
even
let
Pig.
this get you into character.
Yeah, even Pigpen goes, boy, I'm all of a sudden I'm a lot more important than I thought I was, or I'm a lot more relevant than I thought I was. But I thought that was funny. So
Yes, he's like, get in, let this take you into the
yeah,
setting. Get into
yeah.
this
Oh,
world.
he's carrying the dust of the centuries. That's what.
Yes,
And
yes,
then
yes, yes.
and then
Um,
Snoopy has to play all the animals.
of course, of course.
Yeah,
And then a Sally gets assigned as Linus's wife, and clearly she's jazzed about it, and Linus is not so
not
much.
not so much because she just
And
adores Linus.
big hearts appear over her head when she gets
Yes.
this news. Lucy's like, okay, well, what about my part? Obviously, I'm going to be the Christmas queen, right? Because I'm so beautiful. And Charlie
Mm.
Brown's like, and she's like, oh, wow. So you don't think I'm beautiful? You took way too long to answer. You think I'm ugly or
Mm.
something? And so then now Lucy's mad at Charlie Brown,
Gee, and that never goes on.
right? So Charlie Brown kind of gets, he's sort of saved by the bell because they're like, wait, we need a Christmas tree for this play. And Charlie Brown is like, let me go get the Christmas. I'm gonna go get the Christmas tree.
Hmm.
And he takes Linus with him.
Oh, and then they instruct him though, and then this is a big nod to the times. Get
Rude.
a nice shiny aluminum tree
Yes. And they also say, do something right for once, Charlie
once.
Brown. I was like, no wonder he's depressed.
So I can remember this was when they came out with aluminum trees. Now they didn't look like real trees, but
Hmm.
they had the silver foil thingies. And my
Hmm.
grandmother, who always had a real tree, decided
Hmm.
I think it was this year or the year before she was going to get, and she did. She got an aluminum tree,
I think
which
my
my family
babysitter had one.
hated. And then she got one of those lights that has the rotating circle with the different colors to shine
Mm.
on it. And I still have that light.
Oh, wow.
Um, but I remember putting it together so it would shine the different colors on the silver
Hmm.
aluminum tree to make it look like green, blue, pink, and red.
I think my babysitter had one of those because I remember someone when I was a kid had one, and I think it was
You,
her.
you put the little branches, but it had like tin foil, like aluminum
Hmm.
foil strips or whatever. But anyway, so that's that.
Yeah.
When they say aluminum tree, I remember that was a thing.
Yes.
And my
So,
grandfather hated that tree.
it definitely is a very different vibe
Oh my
for
God. Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah. So, but
Um,
anyway.
he does not do that. Spoiler. So Charlie and Lance, they go to like a tree. It appears they go to a little tree lot. They're trying to get a real tree. Back at the rehearsal space, Schroeder's trying to figure out the music. He decides he's going to play Beethoven. He plays a little Fury Elise. And Lucy's like, what is this?
Mhm.
Who is Beethoven even? Is he on a bubblegum card? Because you have not made it until you're on a bubblegum card. And she keeps telling him to play Jingle Bells. And he plays Jingle Bells, and she's like, no. And he plays it like slightly like differently, like on like higher notes. And she's like, no.
And then he plays like it's on a pipe organ, like
Yeah.
like, and no,
And then finally he plays it like ding 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 ding
like
ding 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 ding
chopsticks.
ding. And she's like, yes, exactly. It was like he's playing Jingle Bells the whole time, girl. What's wrong with you? Um, Charlie Brown and Linus return with this tiny little
Oh
nothing
God.
tree. If you're familiar with this, you know the tree.
Hmm.
You know what we're talking about. It appears to be a branch. It looks more like a branch than a tree.
Right.
It's a little sad, but it is what it is.
Hmm.
And people are insulting him immediately. They're insulting him like he is Rudolph. They're coming for him
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Like he's a big screw up.
Hmm. And then Charlie Brown's like, you know what? What even is Christmas about? Like, I don't even know. Like, what is the deal here? And Linus is like, I'll tell you. And he's telling them like the biblical story of Christmas. Like there was like a star and the shepherds and the wise men and da 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 and a manger and all that stuff. If you know, you know.
Yep. And if you don't look it
Yeah, it's easy to find. There's a million songs about it.
up. Right.
O little town of Bethlehem, away in a manger, etc., etc. Charlie Brown, he leaves and he's like, you know what? I'm not gonna let commercialism ruin Christmas for me. I have this little tree and I'm gonna decorate it. And I'm gonna show everybody that it's gonna work and it's gonna be beautiful. And then he puts one like red bauble on it and it like falls over. It's too much for this little sad tree. And he's like, "Wow, everything I touch is ruined."
I I killed it. That's what I love. He said, I killed the tree.
And he gives up. He walks away. But Linus comes up to it and he's like, "It's okay. It just needs a little love." And he wraps his blanket around the bottom. All the other kids are there too. They're actually admiring Snoopy's doghouse, which has won the decoration
First
contest.
prize, right? Yeah.
Yes, first
Yeah.
place. And they all get in on it too. They take decorations. Now that Snoopy's done, the contest is won. They take decorations from Snoopy's house and wrap it around this tree so that it looks like a real tree. I don't know,
Yeah.
like
They
it looks like a totally different shaped tree.
they glued
Um,
needles onto it or something.
yeah.
So
And Charlie Brown comes back and he's like, "Oh my God, what? I didn't like ruin it?" And then they all say, "Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown." And then they sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
I love that. I love it at the end of it. It's sweet to me.
It is very sweet. It is very sweet. And I think
Sorry, that's maybe that's
it
the old man
relates,
in me.
no,
So
it relates thematically. I think, the next one we'll talk about is the Grinch. I think it's a similar
hmm.
message, right? That like Christmas is not about all this like cards and outward stuff.
And toys and decorations
Yes,
and
real
yeah.
estate.
Well, now wait a minute.
It is about real estate.
We have to draw the line somewhere.
But it is about like, connecting with people and like
Peace on earth, goodwill towards men.
exactly. I was going to say goodwill towards men. Exactly that.
Sorry, I didn't
No,
mean
it's
to.
fine. It's fine. We're on the same page. So yeah, it is very sweet. And I do Hark the Herald Angels Sing is a song that I like of the like of the like the
Yeah.
Bible Christmas songs. It is one I
It's
like.
yeah, it is. Yeah. So again, that's a standard for me. I have my ones.
But yeah, Charlie Brown is, it's about like people being there for each other and showing up for you. It's about the people around you for
Hmm.
Christmas, not the stuff.
Not the decorations and
Yeah.
the cash, 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 or whatever it was for the contest. Money, money, money. Charlie was getting fed up with all the commercialism. So,
Yes.
oh, and that was when that one of the things Linus said something about Christmas. Christmas is run by like a big Eastern syndicate or something.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
which I thought was funny.
Yes, exactly.
It was like Mattel,
Right.
and
It's the
and
toy companies.
it's Parker Brothers who made the games. So
Yes.
my dad used to talk about that when we get the Christmas catalog. That was always a big thrill in our house back in those days, was
Like
getting this
the big Sears one.
big Sears Christmas catalog. That was always like that was the golden standard. The
Hmm.
next one down was J.C. Penney's. So
Hmm.
that's when you knew that you weren't on the A list if mom and dad like said, well, why don't you look through the Penny's catalog? Just
Oh
because we
yeah.
would write down our list, but we would go through the catalog and stuff.
I would go through. They sold the Sears catalog when I was a kid. I would go through and
Did you? And
I was circling like every
oh,
page.
we would write down, and then we would put little slips of paper in the catalog, where the things were. My
I was
brother and I.
circling I was circling a lot of stuff. I was like, y'all take this saxophone. It's like $500, like everything. But yeah. Yeah. Charlie Brown, I think it's another like sweet one. It's just
Hmm.
short and sweet.
They are.
And
I think all of them are sweet, and we sort of poked holes or fun at the couple that we've done so far, and then you can do that with anything. But I think deep
yes.
down at the end of the show and at the end of the thing, that the message comes through.
Yes, exactly. And I think we're watching them when we do this with like a critical eye. And normally
Oh,
I think I
yeah,
just go in,
you got,
just suspend your disbelief and
and you have to. And then when like this was 60 years ago when I first saw these shows,
yeah.
so that was
Yeah. You have to
a
remember
lot.
like back when you were a kid watching them, like
Yeah,
reindeer are flying.
yeah, and well, you knew that because it's in the song.
Well,
You know,
yes, but it's like now you're seeing
I
them.
know that was a big deal. It
We've
really
learned about the
was.
infrastructure
Yeah,
of the
although
reindeer training program.
right, that it was all, sort of run like you said, like the NFL Combine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, all right, and then, so now we're getting into your picks. So,
Yes.
the next
So
one in
next
chronological order,
on the list is The Grinch, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This aired in 1966.
the
It is based,
OG.
yes, it is, of course, based on Dr. Seuss's 1957 book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This aired originally on CBS also, December 18th, 1966. And this is, I think, another great one,
Oh yeah.
short and sweet. I think the animation is actually like really nice to look at, even still.
So speaking of that, now it was so do you know who did the animation for this?
No.
It was the same group that did all of the Warner Brothers, the Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck cartoons.
Mm.
So if you look at some of the facial expressions of the characters and so on, and I was a big fan of the Warner Brothers. My dad loved Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Foghorn Leghorn. But if you look especially at Bugs Bunny, you can see the similarities. So you're right. The animation in this is really, really, really good.
Hmm.
First class.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think like when you see the part where the Grinch smiles when he gets
It,
his
it,
evil idea, like that
and his
does.
eyes and stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah,
It
and
does
the way
remind me
his
of,
his hair, like even like does
yeah,
things. Yeah.
the early Looney Tunes and stuff.
That's the Looney Tunes. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's this stars Boris Karloff voice he narrates and voices the Grinch. So he's I think probably best he was Frankenstein's monster in like the original 1930s Frankenstein. He was in a lot of like and he was like the mummy
Mhm.
in the original Mummy from the 1930s. So like he's sort of like a scary guy. Um but in this he's like I said, he's narrating and he's the Grinch. So this is I think one of his last roles.
Mhm.
And he won a Grammy for this.
I did not know that, which
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear though, because um,
It's great voice work between him and Thurl Ravenscroft who sings the song, which is just a great song. It came on I was listening to like a Christmas playlist today and it was on there and it's
was it?
so good. It's such a good song. It's just like as the character as the folks in Paris is Burning would say, a read. It's just a 2 minute long read
Oh, okay.
because
It's
they are
just
just
it,
like
yeah.
tearing the Grinch apart. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't touch you with a 39.5 foot
Oh,
pole.
you're
Like
a
your soul
mean
is full of
one.
you have garlic in your soul. Like you have
You're a
all the charm of a seasick crocodile. Like
yeah. Oh, and stink, stank,
stank,
stunk.
stunk, and a rotten banana with a greasy black peel.
Peel.
Like it's just like,
It's
oh,
this, to me. This is another iconic Christmas song. I mean,
yes.
when it starts out, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You
And
know,
like, if somehow you've never heard this song, which I assume you have, first of all, pause this and listen to it. But Thurl Ravenscroft's voice, like his voice is so deep. You're a mean one,
oh, it's.
Mr. Grinch. I can't, my voice doesn't go that low, but
I don't think
it's
anybody's does.
so look, you're cuddly as a cactus, you're as charming as an eel. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You have
It,
termites in your smile.
smile. It's just. Oh, it's just like
And if I had to choose between you and the seasick crocodile, I would pick the seasick crocodile.
it's just one long burn.
You're a nasty, wasty skunk. Your heart is full of unwashed socks. Your soul is full of gunk. Then the next one is the stink, stank, stunk. That's the words to describe him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like so many. Your soul is an appalling dump heap, overflowing with the most disgraceful assortment of deplorable rubbish imaginable, mangled up and tangled up knots.
I thought at first he said a dung heap. I'm glad to know that it's a dung.
I mean, not much different.
No,
Also,
but
the cherry on top at the end, you're a three-decker sauerkraut and toadstool sandwich with arsenic sauce. So I think that's part of it that makes it very iconic is the
exactly,
song. Um,
exactly.
but if you've not watched any adaptation, first of all, this is like the original, besides the book. This is the original adaptation of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also partial to the 2001 with Jim Carrey as
It's
the live
good.
action one.
It's very good.
Listen, any movie that your makeup requires you to learn how to withstand torture from the
Mm-hmm.
CIA, it's legit. And also Jim Carrey just is like such a character. He just like he embodies it well. I have not seen the 2018 one that's like computer animated with Benedict Cumberbatch, and honestly, that's none of my business. If you were a child now, you can watch
Mm-hmm.
that one. Also, I think you should just watch this one because it's 25 minutes and it's good and it's still good to look at. It's on Peacock Families.
It,
But the
it
2018 one, I'm maybe one day I'll watch it if I catch it on TV. I don't really like I have this one and I have the Jim Carrey one and like I'm solid on that, I
I would
feel.
agree with that because to me this was the original like the first
Yes.
one, and then when Jim Carrey came out with his, I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yes. I think it's funny. It has a bunch of great people in it
Well,
and
and the makeup is so good. I mean,
it
because
is great. The Who's and the Grinch. And also
it
in that one you get a little backstory, little Grinch backstory.
yeah, you do. But and even with Max,
Yes. Oh my God, Max is so cute in that one.
I know. Well,
And
Max is
somehow
just
also
cute.
they like cast a real dog that looks very much like the cartoon
I
dog.
know. I
They cast
know.
him so well.
Um,
And
But
also like the music is good in it. Like Where Are You Christmas is a good song.
mhm.
And you got like Christine Baranski, Molly Shannon, Ron Howard did it, so that's
Well,
a good one.
it was like the hair on all the Who's and stuff,
Yes. And
and
the
the
like the
outfits.
noses and the teeth,
Yeah, I mean,
the Grinch's fingers
it's all so very well done because when you think about the
and his
cartoon and the
teeth.
book, yes,
Yeah. I can't imagine anyone but Jim Carrey doing that also. Like I don't think that anyone else could have pulled that off.
probably not.
Even though Jim Carrey was like, this is horrible. He
Um,
really took one for the I mean, I'm sure he made millions of dollars, but also
oh
uh
yeah,
I'm glad he
uh,
persevered. I'm glad he learned
um,
how to withstand torture to be in the makeup.
exactly.
So, anyways, the OG though.
Yeah.
It opens with also like a kind of classic tune is the Who's like Christmas song. They're like Yahoo Doris, welcome Christmas. It's basically Christmas Day is in our grasp as long as we have hands to clasp. Da da da.
So evidently, wherever Whoville is and whoever the Who's are, they celebrate Christmas.
Yes, they're big. They're like big into
Oh
Christmas.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
big into
Mm,
Christmas.
mm.
So, but up the mountain from them lives the Grinch, who's like a green hairy guy, and he hates Christmas for like sort of unclear reasons. We do learn that he has a heart condition, and that his heart is two sizes too small. So that's where some of the hatred comes from. The general bad vibes off of him relate to the
Right.
size of the small heart. Part of the reason he wants to stop Christmas from coming, part of the reason being that the Who's are loud as hell. He's
Yeah,
like,
with
I'm tired of all this noise, which,
and
like,
and the description of all the devices that they have,
yes,
and the
all the
words
games and instruments and like all
and
the stuff they're
I
doing.
know, and the Bulinkas and
Mm.
the Warlinkas
And
and
the croquets and the tubalins. And, yeah, it's
uh,
like, it's crazy. It's great. It's very funny. And
it
it's like
is.
that part, I was like, you know what? That would be annoying. Maybe I'm with him.
Yeah, especially if you just live by yourself and you just want to be left alone. You
Yes. But then it's like, oh, he's mad at anything they do. Because then he's talking about like them eating the feast. And it's like, well, they're not bothering you when they're eating the feast.
no,
They're
but
quiet. He's suffering from a phenomenon. People on the internet call this bitch eating crackers. It's basically like it came I don't know exactly where it originated from, but it's basically like if you hate someone enough, you hate everything they do.
oh
Like people will be
really?
like, look at that bitch eating crackers, you know?
I haven't heard
So he's
that.
the Grinch has a bitch eating crackers thing towards the Who's. Like at this point, he hates them.
So is that a condition, bitch eating crackers?
But it's basically yeah, if you like hate someone enough that you like they can't do anything right.
Okay.
Bitch eating crackers, a person for whom one feels a strong and disproportionate dislike to the extent that almost anything they do makes one angry or annoyed.
Also, it's the person. So the
Yeah.
person
So
that you
like the
dislike
Grinch
is bitch eating
bitch
crackers.
eating crackers toward the Who's.
The Who's. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, that's the vibe the Grinch has toward the Who's. They can't do anything right. They can't even eat. He's mad when they're eating.
I know.
If you didn't want them to make noise, eating should be great because they're not making noise.
I know. Really, they wouldn't be playing those, Balinkas or whatever they call them. So
Yes, the Who blinkas and the Who
the
horns and Who blah 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 blah.
by the way, I still call roast beef roast
Roast
beast.
beast, yes. That's the centerpiece of the Who Christmas meal, folks, is roast beast.
Don't you kind of wonder
What is it?
what is it? It
Yes.
sort of looks like a cross between a turkey and a roast beef. So it
Yeah.
has
Because it's like the
legs.
shape of a turkey, but they slice it.
I know, like
Yeah,
a
it doesn't have
roast.
middle bones.
I know,
It
yeah.
only
So
has legs.
it has legs. So
What kind of creature is this?
I don't know. I feel bad for it though, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
So he's like, okay, what can I do to stop Christmas? And then he gets an idea. And he has an idea because this very creepy
mm,
smile like unfolds across his face. It's a really a great image. I think
it.
it exists as a GIF. Look it up. And then as he starts planning, this is when they start playing the song, the You're a
Mm,
Mean One, Mr. Grinch song. Um, so he's like, okay, I'm gonna pretend to be Santa and I'm gonna steal everything. So hence the title, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And then he's like, wait, I need a reindeer. And he has a little dog named Max, a very cute little dog. Also, shout out to my late dog named Max. My first
Aw.
dog was named Max. So shout out to Max.
Did you name Max because of this?
No, I don't think
Oh,
so. I don't
okay.
know that it was my idea. I was like
Okay.
8. I feel like I would have come up with something weirder. Um, but yeah, he was Max. He didn't look like this dog. He was a little black miniature schnauzer.
Aw.
Um, so this Max, the Grinch decides is going to be his reindeer. So he like pulls, like he has antlers on his wall and he ties one to Max's head, and it's at first too big, but it adjusts. So then they make the outfits. He's got his Santa outfit. He like cuts down his curtain. He can sew. Shout out to the Grinch.
Mhm.
Skills. He has an old school sewing table where
The,
Max has to do the
the
foot pedal for
treadle.
him.
Yeah, yeah. I love that.
Yeah. He's like pulling stuffing out of pillows to make the trim. Um, but then it's time to head down the mountain to Whoville, and that's a whole slapstick situation because it's a very steep mountain. Poor Max is trying to pull the sled down the hill, and it's like it's getting out in front of him, it's landing on top of him. They're just falling at some point.
And Max, I love when he gets behind the sled and the Grinch can't see him. And he turns around and Max is like,
Here I am. I don't
yeah,
know.
like, and he smiles at him and he whips him around back to the front of the
Yeah.
sled.
I wrote in my notes, seems a rather treacherous journey.
Very. So,
The,
yeah,
the Grinch didn't think this part through.
I don't think he really cared, to be
That's
honest
true.
with you. It seems like it doesn't phase him that they're going like vertical,
Yeah.
they're going straight vertical.
He does seem rather reckless.
Yeah. So perhaps the Grinch is indestructible. I don't know. But poor
Maybe.
Max is like terrified.
Yeah.
I was terrified for Max. I wrote down, I feel bad for Max.
Yeah. He's just being dragged along on this. He didn't want
I,
to do this.
I
He seemed to
know.
enjoy Christmas.
Yeah.
He was
And
smiling when the Who's were singing.
you got to wonder why
Um,
he stays with the Grinch.
I
Why isn't
know.
he down there in Whoville?
Right. But they make it down safely. And the Grinch, he decides if going down the chimney is good enough for Santa, it's good enough for me. So he starts sneaking down the chimneys, and he brings his sacks and he steals all the presents. He steals the stockings, he steals the decor, he's stealing the trees, and he's just tossing it back up the chimney.
Well, he
Um,
steals all the food.
yeah, oh yeah,
He
we
takes
get there.
everything.
The song is playing again as he's doing his work. He literally steals candy from babies
Hmm.
as they're sleeping. He takes all the food, he takes the tree, but then at one of the houses he's at, somebody wakes up. And it's little Cindy Lou who they say is 2, but has an amazing capacity for speech for age 2.
Right.
But
Yeah. So, and really big blue eyes.
yes, maybe 2, maybe the Who's age in dog years. Um,
Oh, could be.
so she's like, Santa, why are you taking our Christmas tree? And the Grinch is like, ooh, but he's a good liar. He thinks on
Mhm.
his feet. He's like, oh, you know what? One of the lights on your tree is not working, so I'm gonna take it with me and fix it, and then I'm gonna bring it back. And he's like, well, you go back to bed. Okay, I'm gonna take you back to bed. You want some water? He gets her a drink, takes her
Hmm.
back to bed. He's not all bad.
Pats her on the head.
Pats her on the head. He's like, you
Yeah.
go to
With
sleep.
them long Grinch fingers
Yes, ew. And he steals everything. He's stealing the logs from the fire. He literally steals crumbs.
that are
They said
even too
all,
small for a
yes,
mouse.
too small for a mouse. And he takes everything back up the mountain, and his sleigh is loaded up. Those bags are big and full.
And you got to wonder, Max.
Yeah,
Max is
he's not a big dog.
no, but he's pulling it through the snow and then pulling that thing straight up back up the hill, the mountain.
Mm-hmm. And it's like teetering. It is balanced just so on the top point of this mountain. So, anyways, then it's Christmas morning, and the Grinch is like, "Ooh, what are they gonna do?" He's like waiting with bated breath to see what happens, and the Who's gather in their little town square and they sing. Just like they always do. The Yahoo Doris, welcome Christmas, Christmas. Christmas Day is in our grasp as long as we have hands to clasp. He
Right.
obviously didn't listen to the words. And he's like, wait, what? How are they still doing this? I took
Yeah.
everything. I
Right.
stole Christmas. And then he figures it out. Maybe Christmas doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas means a little bit more. He's like, huh. He has his epiphany. And then the sled full of stuff is about to fall off the mountain. As I said, it was teetering very precariously on the top point.
Hmm.
Um, Once he's had this revelation, however, his heart grows 3 sizes. So actually, he has surpassed the size of a normal heart. Now it's one size over. He's got an enlarged heart now. He has a
Hmm.
different heart condition.
Gotcha.
But it also gives him like super strength, and he stops the sleigh from
He
careening down the mountain.
lifts it up, and then
Yeah,
he's like he's like super Grinch.
when you're happy, it makes you can lift things. I guess it was like the mom with like her baby under a car. He was
Right.
like that.
Or the yeah, the train was coming, and
Yes,
yeah. So
he was Spider-Man.
there you
Spider-Man
go.
2, holding the train. But then he brings all the stuff back and he joins the Who's for dinner. He
Mhm.
even carves the roast beast,
Roast beast, and gives everyone a slice,
gives everyone a
including
slice,
Max.
including Matt. Well, he hands one to Cindy, and Cindy hands it to Max.
Oh, that's
Um,
true.
but yeah, and then he joins in. Like Charlie Brown, he realized that Christmas is not about consumerism. It's about like togetherness and like you said, peace on earth and goodwill towards men. Uh, like they
Or-
weren't singing because they had stuff. They were singing because it's a day that they're celebrating together.
Right. Yeah. And or
Christmas Day is in our grasp as long as we have hands to clasp. It's about being together. It's not about the stuff.
it's true.
They were going to celebrate one way or another.
It didn't matter that that someone had taken all their things, and that's not what Christmas was about. I mean, it's something there, but it's not what the definitive reason for Christmas is.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because as we learned in Charlie Brown, it's real estate.
Exactly. And they have it. They
And
have their own town.
right, in their own homes. So
Uh-huh.
sorry I had to throw that in. But
No, all
again,
good.
I think this is a sweet story.
Hmm.
And so well done. The animation, like you said,
Yes.
is excellent.
I love it. Like
The
it's from 1966, but I think it looks great.
Oh, it still holds up.
Yeah.
And the narration with Boris. Boris was in
Hmm.
very good voice, and and I don't remember the name of the guy who sang the song, but
Thurl Ravenscroft.
that's a name now. Let me
That is
tell
a
you.
name.
So
Now I'm
it
like, is
sounds
that
like
his real name?
I don't know. It sounds like he's one of the houses of Hogwarts. And
It
we're
was his
in
real name. He used to be the voice of Tony the Tiger, which makes
really.
sense.
Oh,
Yes.
that does make sense.
For more than 5 decades.
Well, I mean,
You're great.
there's a guy who left his mark then
Yes.
in more ways than one.
He was a bass singer. But yeah, Thurl Ravenscroft. That was his real name.
How
Wow.
do you spell his first name?
Thurl. So like hurl, but with a
Pearl,
T
but
in the front.
Thurl Ravenscroft. Man,
Hmm.
that's
It sounds like Ravenclaw. Ravenscroft. That's a
Which house are you? Ravenscroft. That are,
and he's done voice work in various Disneyland attractions. So you can hear his voice in
oh, that's interesting.
at the Haunted Mansion, the Country Bear Jamboree, Pirates of the
Oh,
Caribbean.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I guess he's no longer with us.
No, he died in 2005 at
Okay.
91.
Oh my. Well,
Yeah. His voice acting career began in 1939 and lasted until his death.
goodness gracious.
So like 66 years.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah.
That's a career now.
I mean, I guess that's like he was born with a very deep voice and somebody was like, "Hey,
Yeah, we could utilize that.
We would like to listen to that.
Well, good for him for making, making a career out of that. But yeah, so again, this one, eh, yeah, if you don't want to watch the whole movie, with Jim Carrey and stuff like that, this one is just, I mean, the same message comes across.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little shorter, but
Yep.
but the animation being as good as it is, it's
Yeah.
it's still,
The
uh,
animation and the song
oh
is good.
yeah.
And I mean, the narration is basically, it's just the book. They're just like
Hmm.
reading the book.
Hmm. Yeah, but
Uh,
in that voice though,
yes.
Dolores'
And it
voice,
rhymes.
yes,
It's all
it
rhyming.
does.
If you're unfamiliar with the work of Dr. Seuss,
Oh
it rhymes.
yeah, please don't tell us that you don't know who Dr. Zeus
If you
is.
don't know who Dr. Seuss is, your parents neglected you, maybe.
Mm,
Everyone
Lord,
I know, all like children I know, at least have Dr. Seuss books. I've bought Dr. Seuss books for
at least
people.
a cat in a hat,
Right.
you know.
But yeah, I think this Grinch, it's the original one. It's like 25 minutes long. Watch it. This is one that like if it's on TV, I'll watch it.
Oh
I watch
yeah,
some form of the Grinch like every year.
do you? Okay.
So the Jim Carrey one probably most often because I think it's on TV a lot more. But this one, like when it's on, I'll watch it. It's like 30 minutes. Like
I don't know that this one's on every year.
I don't think so. But now it's on Peacock.
Right,
So people can
which
stream
is,
it. And I
mhm,
imagine maybe that means it'll come on NBC.
hopefully they'll show it. I mean, it used to be a staple every year. So,
Yeah.
and I was just good. Just before we get into our last one, just think of my 3 years, 64, 65, and 66. Every year there was a new
Just
Christmas special,
bangers.
and they were so by 66 I had 3 Christmas shows I could watch, just geared towards kids: Rudolph, Charlie Brown, and then Grinch. So come
Yeah,
on,
that
you
is
know
amazing.
you know was
And of
was
course, then
was my
Rankin and
life
Bass
good?
were, it was good. And Rankin and Bass were cranking them out too.
Oh yeah, there was
Because
other
then
ones.
69, Frosty the Snowman came.
Mm-hmm. And
Except
then
that one was like
70
the,
was Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
mm-hmm.
um, oh yeah,
Yeah.
life was good back then.
Yeah.
So
I will say for full disclosure, we did consider Frosty the Snowman, but it was like we were already talking about four things, and
mm,
that one I felt we didn't feel was quite the strongest emotional connection.
but it did get an honorable mention.
It did get an
So
honorable mention. So
yeah, so it was in the running. It was it
I
was
I
it was
think I used to watch that all the time when I
Did
was a
you,
kid. Him going,
Frosty?
"Happy birthday" whenever he came to life
Um, yeah,
was
I
great.
wasn't as much of a fan of it as I was, these the ones that we picked. And
Yeah.
again, and then I'll reiterate, I also liked Santa Claus is Coming to Town
Yes, that is a good one too.
with Fred Astaire and Mickey Rooney.
Yes. Another Rankin and Bass joint.
Another, yeah. So
I will say just briefly about Frosty the
uh,
Snowman. This is like a memory that seared into my brain. When I was, let's say, 8, my
mm,
grandparents they lived like down the street from us, and so we would be at their house for Thanksgiving. And my cousins were little; they were like 4 and 2. And my cousin who was 4, like little kids like they're picky, so he would barely eat anything, right? They would eat like
oh yeah.
corn and mashed potatoes and like a roll, and then he was excused from the table.
Oh really?
And he went to the corner, and in my grandmother's dining room in the corner, she had all these little tins and Tupperware things because she would bake cookies and send them to
Oh,
people in these containers.
nice.
And he puts one on his head and starts singing Frosty the Snowman. But he didn't know all the words. So he basically was just singing Frosty the Snowman, Frost over and over. And I thought it was so funny that it made me do a spit take
Really?
of Sunny Delight
Oh,
across my grandmother's cream tablecloth. And I immediately got up and I hid in her pantry. I shut myself in the pantry.
how old were you?
I was like 8,
Oh gosh.
7, maybe
Yeah.
7 or 8.
Well, you couldn't
I was
help it.
like, oh my God, she's gonna kill me. But it's
And she
like
didn't.
she didn't. Obviously, I'm still
No.
alive. And now my cousin does musical theater.
See, there you go. So,
But it was like,
does he still have trouble remembering the lyrics?
no, thankfully. I don't think he would book jobs if he did, but But that's my biggest Frosty the Snowman memory. That and
Okay.
then him, happy birthday. Because that's how I want to say happy birthday to people sometimes. Like that's the voice that it wants to come out in.
Frosty's voice.
Yeah. But those are my Frosty memories. Anyways, we'll get to the last one. Another pick of mine. We're jumping forward in time to 1974.
Whoa, almost a whole decade.
I know.
So look at you, time
Yes.
traveling.
Yes. So this is The Year Without a Santa Claus. It's another Rankin and Bass one. This one's a little bit weirder, which I think is par for the course for like 70s things,
Yeah.
probably. Um, I used to watch when I was a kid some things that like my mom grew up watching, and I'm like, this is like in retrospect, I'm like, this is weird.
Hmm.
This is weird. Like HR Puffin stuff, for example, if people are familiar,
I love
look
that
that
show.
up. But it was like weird. I can't believe I liked it as a kid. That witch was terrifying, but I really liked it as a kid because you
Witchy
could get it at
poo.
Blockbuster.
Witchy
Yes,
poo. Yeah.
and the little magic flute. It was a weird show, but I liked it. So, anyways, The Year Without a Santa Claus is based on a book from 1956 by Phyllis McGinley of the same title. It aired originally on ABC. It featured an actress, Shirley Booth. This was like one of her last things. She plays Mrs. Claus. She voices Mrs. Claus, who also narrates the story.
Hmm.
This also features Mickey Rooney as the voice of Santa. And then this is the reason why this is a favorite of mine is because it features the Miser Brothers and their songs. So Heat Miser and Snow Miser.
Gotcha.
I actually went to a drag queen Christmas show recently, and one of the queens started her routine to the Heat Miser song
Oh,
and then
really?
transitioned into like other. She went from like the Heat Miser song to like Hot in Here by Nelly to like other like fire
Nice.
hot, and then like wrapped it back around to Heat Miser to end on I'm too much. So it was great.
Mhm.
Um,
Neat. That's cool.
yes. So I was like, this is exactly for me. The Miser, Snow Miser is voiced by Dick Shawn, who he was like a comedian, you said.
Yeah.
And Heat Miser is voiced by George S. Irving, who primarily was a Broadway actor. So this, again, the story is a little bit weird, but I
It
guess
it tis.
this lady Phyllis McGinley was, I don't know, letting her imagination run wild when she wrote the original
Hmm.
story. So, um, I will say you could see the evolution in the Rankin and Bass, their little stop
Hmm.
motion. The
Hmm.
people look more realistic, and I think that it's that way in Santa Claus is Coming to Town too. Like the people have like, well, I guess maybe that's because they're humans and not. Well, even Santa looks more like a person.
More
Like their eyes, they have
right.
like an iris and like the white of their eye, right? Whereas
Yeah.
like in Rudolph, everybody just has like little black dots as
Right. They're
eyes.
just yeah, they're very rudimentary.
Yeah. So it starts, Santa's got a bit of a cold. He's feeling a little under the weather.
Just a
And
touch.
they have like a little elf doctor comes who's a needs to work on his bedside manner because he's incredibly unpleasant.
I was going to say the
And
doctor was a I said doctor's a humbug. He's like a
he
real
is.
grouch.
He is a Scrooge and a half.
I
He's like,
know.
nobody cares about Christmas. Nobody believes in Santa. Who cares?
Right.
And
he goes, you probably, run down from all that running around you do and all that
yeah.
other stuff that you do.
And Santa's sort of buying into it. He's like, oh my God. And he's like, we should just cancel Christmas. And then
Yeah.
we get the theme song. It was a year without a Santa. It's like a chorus of children. Year without a Santa Claus. And Mrs. Claus is worried about this. She calls over, or I think Santa tells the elves. His top two elves are Jingle and Jangle. And listen, if they're the top two, it's slim pickings in the
I was
North
getting ready to
Pole
say,
because they're
boy,
not great.
if they're the top two, then man, something is wrong.
Things are not going well at the North Pole.
You need to talk to the human resources guy. So
Agreed. You need to do some hiring, Santa.
just
Um,
saying.
and Mrs. Claus is like, well, we can't let Christmas be canceled. Like, no.
Right.
Santa's in his feelings right now, but like, no. So she first she toys with the idea that she'll take over,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just not going to work. She cannot pass as Santa. She doesn't have a beard. Feels
Yeah.
like she could find one, but she doesn't. So she's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Santa just needs someone to believe in him. He's like Tinkerbell, you know? He needs applause to live.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, like if you ever see like Peter Pan on stage, they make you clap. Like Tinkerbell's light is fading, you know? You
Mm-hmm.
need to believe. Um, so she sends Jingle and Jangle and one of the little reindeer, Vixen, to go down to Earth or down to wherever everybody else, where the people live,
Right.
to find somebody that believes to like, bring up Santa's spirits,
Br-
basically.
Boost him up.
Yeah, because he just needs, obviously, like that doctor got in his head. He just needs to know that, people do believe that this matters to people.
Mm-hmm.
She does not tell Santa, who is just lazing about now.
I know
I
he's
wrote,
like a slug.
I wrote, he's relaxing, lazy ass. The elves are out here slaving away. And Santa's like,
Again,
oh, I'm tired. You work
yeah,
one day a year, Santa.
really.
What about the rest of us?
And again, like, what's he do except drive the sleigh? The reindeer do all the work.
Right.
He's a truck driver.
So he's like, do you think it's a bad idea that I'm canceling Christmas? And she's like, maybe you'll change your mind.
Yeah, well, maybe not, but
Um,
it's like,
but Santa's like, I know you and I know you're up to something. So she fesses
mm-hmm.
up. She's like, okay, I'm sending, I sent the elves. They're going to find someone that believes. And he's like, oh no, like that. He's basically like, people are horrible. I have to go rescue them. Santa puts on his bowler hat and his striped pants and heads down.
Now,
Uh,
now he looks like the mayor or something
yeah.
of some,
This is
some
clearly
town.
supposed to be in like 1900. Because the outfits,
Evidently,
they have those boots with like the white covers on them,
spats. Yeah,
spats. Okay, I didn't know that's what they're
yeah.
called, but they're like the boots you have to like
They have the
hook with the
hooks.
hook to close
Mm-hmm.
them. That's
Mm-hmm.
like the wardrobe.
And there's no
Um,
cars. They have bicycles.
yes, there are
Although we
bicycles.
don't see horses.
No, but it does appear to be Southtown appears to be a very small town, so maybe they just walk.
That's true.
Um,
Except for
also,
the police officer who has a bicycle.
and the dog catcher has a truck.
Oh yeah, he does. That's right. He does have a truck. I
So
forgot
this
about
is
that.
like, I guess, early automobile days.
Must be. Probably ran on
Um,
steam.
right. So in any case, the other hiccup here is that Mrs. Claus didn't tell the elves and Vixen to be careful on their route because she sent them directly into the path of both of the Miser brothers, who are
Yes.
sort of mischievous and not great. They kind of,
You would have thought you would have remembered that,
that feels like it's a big detail to leave
Right,
out.
exactly.
So thanks, Mrs. Claus. So, and of course, they end up right in Heat Miser's path. They get hit by one of his little fireballs or whatever and go tumbling down
I,
out of the sky.
I like the special effects. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, they end up in Southtown, USA. So they're like, okay, this is a town with people in it. Let's find somebody here. Of course, they immediately get a ticket because they're the police officer's like, you're riding that whatever that is on the wrong side of the road.
Right. It's these they think he thinks it's a dog, right?
Yeah. And then they decide they're going to run with it to decide to disguise Vixen as a dog. They put their socks on her ears
Mm-hmm.
so she looks like a dog. Mind you, she still has hooves.
Right.
Has
And
anyone seen a dog with those?
maybe in uh some sort of devil movie.
Right? It's a devil dog. Um, Santa arrives shortly after. He learns that they have gotten in trouble, so he has to find them. Jingle and Jangle, meanwhile, they're walking around. They ask an adult about Santa, and
Right. And
the lady's like,
the lady's like, yeah,
"Leave. What are you talking? I'm an adult."
yeah. Why are you bothering me? Who
Also,
are
then she
you?
has a cat, and then the cat and Vixen are like chasing each other. They have to
And the
go,
cat
they're
looked like
hiding
a muff.
like a muff around her hands. What kind of cat is that? Um, then the elves and Vixen are in a tree, but then they see some kids and they're like, oh, we got to ask the kids. They obviously believe in Santa. So they go. Also, it is too hot for Vixen. Vixen is used to the North Pole weather. They're in Southtown, USA, which is
Hmm.
presumably in the southern part of the United States, and it's hot there. So she's not doing well. So they're like, you lay in the shade. We're going to go talk to these kids. And the kids are also like, we're not babies. We don't believe in Santa. We don't care if he's taking the year off.
Right.
Irrelevant.
We don't care. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the dog catcher takes Vixen. So now the elves got to go deal with that. Um, but Santa happens to run into that same boy. His name is, and this is a name, Ignatius Thistlewhite, but you can call him Iggy.
Iggy.
Um, so he asks him about the elves, and Iggy's like, "Oh, yeah, I saw them. What's your name?" And he's like, "It's Mr. Klaus."
Yeah. Which is, dude, yeah, that's the best you could come up with.
Santa has like 10 names. You couldn't say like Chris Kringle or something. Like, come on.
Right. It's like, dude, come on.
Um, also, Santa's cold is getting worse.
Yeah, he
Um,
really is sick, evidently.
yeah, he's
So
sneezing and coughing a
look,
lot.
I was gonna say he's sneezing.
Yeah. So, but Iggy's family is really nice. They're like, come in here, like we'll get you some tea, whatever. Um, and Iggy also tells Santa to his face, like, no, I don't believe in Santa. But the dad is like, he's like, do you believe in Santa, Mr. Klaus? And he's like, yeah, I do. And the dad's like, I believe too. And he sings a
Yeah,
song about it.
which is not a memorable
It was not
song.
a great song. I forgot the song existed until I watched it again. But
You and me
then
both.
but it's so moving to Iggy that he sheds a tear and he's like, you know what? Maybe I do believe in Santa.
Yeah. It's
So
like,
I
oh,
guess it
okay.
served the purpose. Also, then Iggy remembers an important detail. This movie is full of people forgetting important details until too late. He's like, "Oh, by the way, the dog catcher picked up Vixen." And Santa's like,
Right.
"Oh, well, I got to go save her."
Right.
And then Santa leaves on his, he was trying to like be on the DL. He was trying to be subtle, but he's like, I gotta save Vixen. So he gets on his reindeer and and flies away. And then Iggy's like, oh my God, that was Santa.
Oh,
Oh snap. Iggy wants to help now. He's invested. And his dad's like, you should go talk to the mayor. Which is also what the elves are doing. Because
right.
the elves were sent there by the dog catcher. And the mayor's just laughing at all of them, talking about reindeers and Santa and all that. And he's like, yeah, I'll believe in all this if you can make it snow in Southtown.
Yeah.
And Jangle, who is dumb, is like, oh, yeah, we can do that. Fine.
Yeah. It's like, oh,
And
okay.
Jingle is like, bro, what? Why are you telling him this? We can't do
Right.
that.
We can't do that. Are you an idiot?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Santa does rescue Vixen. He's like, okay, we gotta go back home because she's struggling. The dog catcher does seem to believe that he is Santa and that these are reindeer because I guess the dog catcher knows what a dog looks like.
Yeah.
But also, why wouldn't he let Vixen out for the elves? I don't know. But, anyways, he does believe Santa, at least. So Santa's leaving. Mrs. Claus comes. She hears from the elves what's going on. So she comes to get them. She's
And
like, you want
she's
to come?
riding a reindeer.
Yes, but she has a little sleigh that's
Oh,
being
yeah,
pulled
yeah,
by the
yeah. I
reindeer. She has like a
forgot. I
little
forgot.
miniature sleigh.
Yeah, I forgot.
Um, so she picks them up. She's like, Iggy, you want to come? Okay, great. And they are like, okay, we're gonna go see Snow Miser and see if we can make this happen. And we get the song. This is really the part. These are the parts that make me love this.
Okay.
So we
So,
get the Snow Miser song. It goes, I'm Mr. Snow Miser. I'm Mr. Ten Below. So he sings a song about snow and freezing and all that stuff. And he's sort of, they have very different vibes, Snow
mhm.
Miser and Heat Miser. He's goofy. He's making puns about snow and cold. He's here for the jokes. He would love to make it snow, but that area is controlled by his stepbrother,
Heat
Heat
miser.
Miser. I will also just say this is a minor me being nitpicky. How do they have the same mom if it's his stepbrother? That should be your half brother then. But, you know,
I
I didn't
wondered
write
about
it.
that too. So, yeah.
Anyways.
Anyways, anywho's.
So they're like, listen, if my brother will let me make it snow there, I'm happy to do it. But he's in charge of that area. So Mrs. Claus is like, all right, we're going to see Heat Miser. Heat Miser sings what is essentially the same song, but it's about heat and
Heat.
melting, and I'm Mr. 101.
One.
The songs are great, mostly because they both end with I'm too much. Do 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 do. And they have little mini versions of themselves dancing with like little
Yeah,
canes and hats and stuff, doing a little soft shoe. It's great.
it is.
Just
It's
look
good.
up the songs at least. Look up the Heat
Oh, yeah,
Miser
yeah,
and Snow
yeah.
Miser song. Heat Miser he's, pardon the pun, a bit of a hothead. He's not chill and making jokes like his brother. He's like,
No.
what are you doing here? Like, he's upset. He is not open to letting it snow in the South unless he can have the North Pole.
Right.
So Mrs. Claus calls Snow Miser. They call him Snowy to see if he could talk. They have like a video, they're FaceTiming,
I
basically.
love that.
It
Yeah.
reminds me of the in future Romeo and Michelle,
Mm-hmm.
and they have like the big like video call like on the wall.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So she calls to ask, and then the brothers start fighting. And she's like, okay, I didn't want to have to do this, but I'm gonna have to go over your head. And they're like, no, you wouldn't. She's like, no, you guys are giving me no choice. And the elders are like, oh my God, are you for real? So they have to go see Mother Nature, the Mother Nature. I love Mother Nature because she's wearing a hat that is a bird's nest and there's birds
Mm-hmm.
flying in and out of it. And she has this voice. She's like, my sons are nasty little boys, and I will straighten them out. She summons them. She's like, okay, here's what's going to happen. You allow one snowy day in Southtown. He will allow one nice day at the North Pole.
Right.
Boom. They're refusing. So she summons a lightning bolt to be like, listen here, boys. I'm in charge. And they're like, okay, mother. Um, at the North Pole, Santa has returned with Vixen. He puts her in her sick bed. She's going to be okay. And then he takes a nap in the rocking chair.
I know he's like, well, I guess he's still sick.
Yeah.
He's still sacked out.
Yeah. Um, the Miser brothers, though, they follow through on the plan,
Yep.
and it snows in Southtown. Um, and everyone is like rejoicing. They're singing songs. The mayor is like, "Go! I have to wear my galoshes." What?
Yeah, he's on the phone with
Yeah,
his
his
wife or
wife's like,
some.
"Don't forget your galoshes when you come home." And he's like, My galoshes." And Santa's like, you know what? Santa seems to feel a little bit at peace. He's like, the world gave me a vacation. There's some goodwill.
Yeah.
He goes to sleep. But then the kids of the world have heard that Santa's taken the year off, and they're like, well, I mean, listen, if it was me, I would be like, what are you doing? But these kids are nice. So they're like, why don't we take care of Santa this year? And so they all gather up and send him gifts.
Yeah. They all chip in. They
Yeah.
take their allowances and stuff and buy him a present.
Yes, they bust open their piggy banks and buy him something. And one little girl writes him a letter in which she plagiarizes Elvis's Blue Christmas. Obviously, she does not sing it in Elvis's voice, but she's like,
No.
I'll have a blue Christmas without you. And she's sad. She's the
Mm-hmm.
one who's like, listen, this
Yeah.
makes me sad that you're skipping Christmas.
Right.
And Santa sees that and he's like, you know what? Let me get myself together. I can't skip Christmas.
Yeah.
So
I said Santa's got to get his shit together.
he does. He's, as Kim Kardashian says, nobody wants to get up off their ass and work. And Santa gets it together. He finally does get up off his ass to work. And he goes to Southtown and they sing, Here Comes Santa Claus.
Yep.
Here comes Santa Claus. And Mrs. Claus is like, Santa Claus is always there. Santa Claus is always going to come through.
Right.
And he does. Although I will say, do you know who got things done in this special? The women. Mrs. Claus, Mother Nature, and that little girl, that little sad girl. Without them, none of this is happening.
So So and I was going to say, so to recap, I put Jingle and Jangle were idiots.
Useless.
Sorry,
Useless.
useless. Um, Santa was like a big whiny,
Hmm.
whatever.
My job is so hard. My
Yeah,
one day a year that I
yeah.
do stuff.
And like you said, if Jingle and Jangle were the best of the elf crew, I think maybe I'd look at HR to
Maybe
do
we
some
need to clean
recruiting.
house. Clean house in the elf department.
The mayor was not the mayor, the dog catcher, and the police officer were all pretty dim witted,
The municipal government of Southtown also needs some work.
right? So, but you're right. So
But yeah, I think overall the message here is like,
it's
it's we have to persist in believing
yeah,
because
and we can compromise,
yes, we can compromise and there will not be a year without a Santa Claus. Santa's there. The
right?
Christmas spirit is always there
Is always
regardless of
there.
what is happening.
um, and sometimes it just takes a little spark to.
Yes. Which I think also goes that dovetails nicely with the Charlie Brown too,
Hmm.
right? Because he struggled with the Christmas spirit until the end.
Yeah, till
Um,
till the crew got together and saved the little tree.
yeah. So sometimes you just need other people to remind you
Yes,
that there are people
exactly.
who love you and that they want you to celebrate Christmas with them.
Right, and or
So,
that they want good things for you, even though
mhm.
sometimes you don't always maybe either feel you deserve good things or you don't want good things for you, but there are other
Yes.
people who do.
And listen, we're dogging on Santa in this movie, but I think, sometimes we feel disillusioned with the
Yes,
work we're doing, right? I think you and I can relate to that.
and
We're
probably a
trying
lot
to
of
do good
people.
things for other people, but sometimes it's like, ugh,
I'm
for
gonna,
what?
yeah, and
It is relatable to feel perhaps that your efforts are not always appreciated.
good point, but
But we're not lazy asses like Santa. We don't give up.
no, no, not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. I mean, one day I
One
will.
day.
But
But yeah, with Santa, yeah, making fun of the characters and so on. It's to me, it's sort of like romantic comedies or the
mm-hmm.
sitcoms where the dad's always the dumb one and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So it's easy pickings, but it's the spirit of Santa.
Yeah.
That we should be. We should think of others before
Mm-hmm.
we think of ourselves, and then if we need to make sure that the person next to us is the one that's are we taking care of them,
Mm-hmm.
are we thinking of them? Don't think
Yes.
about yourself, think about the person that's beside you.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And again, for me, it is the Miser brothers that make this
I can see that.
so enjoyable because they're just like funny characters. They have great songs.
Well, and I think that maybe it comes through a little bit. I don't know who played Heat Miser, but I knew, like I said, I knew who Dick Shawn was, so I recognized that name. So I think that
Mhm.
that his personality or came out in his portrayal of the cold miser. So
Yes.
yeah, so
Yes.
it was a again. It's how can you go wrong with claymation and Rankin and Bass? Bass and Rankin.
Exactly.
So
I think they're just so great. And I think
yeah.
this is fun because I think as they get more into it, they sort of expand the world of Santa, right? Because we have Santa, they've done one about like Easter Bunny and like
Oh
there's Frosty
yeah.
the Snowman, and now we have like Mother Nature and like the Heat Miser and Snow Miser that control the weather. It's if it
Mhm.
reminds me of like in the later like Santa Claus movies when they have like meetings of all the like
Oh,
uh
of all the
the sort
fairy
of the yeah like sort of
fairy
fairy
tale,
mythical beings of like
right?
it's like Santa, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth
The
Fairy, like
tooth
all of
fairy,
that.
yeah.
Or like there's a movie I haven't maybe I'll pick this one. I haven't seen it in a while called Rise of the Guardians, where it's
Oh, I
like
know what you're talking about.
Santa and like the Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy, they all like protect the children of the world like
It's
from
yeah, from
darkness.
darkness, and it's isn't it
And like Jack Frost is like
Jack
gonna
Frost?
join them
I was trying to
potentially.
yeah.
Maybe
So it
I picked that.
was
I haven't watched that in a while, but like I love
that's a
that.
good one.
So I
I
think it
haven't
is
seen that in a long time.
I did used to love that when it first came out. But yeah, I think this is fun because it's sort of expanding that world. Um and I just love the Heat Miser and So Miser. They have such catchy songs.
Mhm.
Um and they're just sort of like chaos agents in the
it-
world.
well, and come to think of it, I think maybe it was around this time of that things started coming about taking care of the world, taking care of the earth, and
Mm-hmm.
there used to be the commercial about it's not nice to fool Mother Nature, and stuff
Mm,
like that, and about how
it's
what we were
true.
doing to our planet. So maybe that was part of this as well. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a little bit of that about, like you said, encompassing.
That's
We
true. Right. Clean Air Act is 1974, I
yeah,
believe. So
so
yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense. And we're getting into like weather and Mother Nature and stuff. But it
yeah,
was
about
just that part is just so funny to me. The idea that like the weather is caused by like warring siblings.
right. The heat miser and the cold miser, and
Yeah.
that their mom was Mother
Their mom
Nature.
is Mother Nature who has to like be like, boys, stop
So you,
fighting.
so who's their dad? Mm. Mm.
It'd be like Father Time.
Oh, that's a good one. I never thought about that. Yeah, that's good.
Could
Yeah,
be, could
yeah,
be.
could be.
Um, but yeah, that one is a little bit weirder. It's a little bit more off the beaten path of like
It,
straight up
it,
Christmas stories, but it is fun.
yeah, because we really don't. Well, we see Santa a little bit. Mostly Santa's laying down and sleeping. So
Yeah. This
or
movie's about getting Santa to do his job,
right about
basically.
getting off his lazy butt and getting to work. Let's get busy,
Santa.
Santa.
Right.
So, well, I think we did a good recap of holiday specials for our audience. And look, even if you don't have kids, or if you have kids or grandkids or whatever age you are, spend a little time. Like Lindsay said, it doesn't take long to watch these, even if you space them out a little bit throughout the holiday season. We're just getting into the first of the December, the
Hmm.
Christmas. Now it's okay to listen to Christmas music, by the way. You can put up your trees as far as I'm concerned. So,
Yes.
but yeah, it's take a little time out for yourself too. If you don't have kids or grandkids to watch it with, sit down and watch it. Have yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of hot cocoa.
Hmm.
Relax a little bit. Put your feet up, and
Yes.
you know.
Just get
And if
into
you're my
like,
generation, think back when you were 6, 7, 8 years old.
exactly.
Try to
Exactly.
recapture some of that.
Yes. That's what I was going to say. I think sometimes tapping into like the childlike wonder of
Hmm
it all is what kind of gets you into the Christmas spirit of
I
just,
would agree with that. Yeah. So
like think of how excited you used to get when like you woke up and it was snowing and like you wake up and there's presents or like stockings and like all this the decorations and lights and stuff. Like just tap into that because,
yeah,
there's enough like sort of bad stuff. Just let's like revel a little bit in the
yeah,
nice
and
parts of it.
the spirit of the season. So if
Yes.
listen to your Christmas songs if you like, or if it's not Christmas, if it's Hanukkah, or if it's whatever that you celebrate
Yes.
this time of the year, or just if you don't celebrate, but maybe take the time to spend some time with your fellow humans.
Exactly. Exactly. As Jim said, peace on earth and goodwill towards men.
Well,
That's
I plagiarized.
I mean, yeah. He didn't originally say it.
No, no, I'm old, but
But
I'm not that old. So,
no.
so good choices.
So yeah, I hope this is a good kind of kickoff to Christmas season. We have the next few weeks more
Hmm
Christmas movies, and we are rounding out the month since Hanukkah starts at the end of December this year. We have a Hanukkah movie
mm
to round out the month because we are, trying to reach everybody. I'm not familiar with any Kwanzaa movies. If there was, we could watch it. But if anyone has any suggestions, let us know. Maybe that can be in the rotation for next time. But
Like, yeah, please
Jim and
do.
I are Christmas celebrators, so we're heavy on the Christmas stuff. So
We are.
uh,
So,
just so you know,
we,
I love
we,
Christmas. It's my favorite holiday.
I would have to say mine as well. So I would agree. So it's something about this time of the year, and it always makes me think of family and
Hmm.
loved ones and home. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. And sometimes home is where the heart is. So it's not
Hmm.
always necessarily where you grew up or where you're at now, but maybe where your heart is. So
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. It just feels like warm and like loving and being around people that I love and, everybody trying to like make each other happy and good food and like cookies and all that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
what
Um,
comes to mind. So,
Hugs. I always think, I always, there's always want to, make sure that I spend some time with the people that I care about. And then, if I don't say it throughout the whole year, at least this time of the year, I like to let people know how I feel about them. So,
yeah. It's a good time. It's a good time. I'm not a fan of the cold, but I like the rest of it. But yeah, so we'll talk more about Christmas, and maybe as we talk about these other Christmas movies, we can touch on some of our other favorites of like um songs and cookies
oh, that's a great idea.
and what you
So,
eat and stuff. So
mm-hmm,
we'll touch on more of those things. This one's been pretty long because we covered a lot of stuff. So,
we did.
but
So,
we'll include some more tidbits about our favorite Christmas traditions and things as we go along in these
fruitcake,
next several episodes. Fruitcake? You're a fruitcake
fruitcake.
fan?
Oh,
I feel like
yes.
fruitcake is always like a joke in movies of like this
It is,
sucks.
but yeah. Sorry, so when it's going to come out, yeah, I'm a closet fruitcake foodie. So
Well, there we go. We've all learned something new about Jim, to judge him harshly on.
yes, so yeah, so ostracize me now, but I'll just sit in my corner and
Yes.
eat my fruitcake.
There we go. All the fruitcake for Jim. Send your fruitcakes to Jim. Well, we've done a lot to kick off
Yep.
the Christmas season now, so I hope everyone has enjoyed. Please check out these specials. Like Jim said, they're pretty quick, they're fun, some catchy songs and great animation, voice acting, etc. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, please subscribe so you can get all of our episodes when they come out every Monday. You can review and rate us, leave us a comment, especially if they're nice. Otherwise, you're a Grinch. You can also follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. You can see all the other movies that we talked about. You can see little previews and whatever else that we see fit to post. And with that, bye bye.
Take care.
And Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.